Welcome to the August 3rd City of Plano Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I'm calling the meeting to order at 6 o'clock p.m. If all would please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. First item of business is consent agenda.
Consent agenda. The consent agenda will be acted upon in one motion and contains items that are routine and typically non-controversial. Items may be removed from this agenda for individual consideration by commissioners or staff.
Thank you. Would any commissioner like to have an item removed from the agenda? I'm not ready for a motion yet, so, okay. All right. No? Okay. We do have, is there a Mr. Khan in the audience somewhere? We had a technical glitch, and you were registered to speak in support of every item on the agenda. So I wanted to see if there was a particular item that you intended to speak on, or if you did want to speak on every item on the agenda. Is there a Mr. Khan here? No Mr. Khan here. Okay. Well, I guess he's not speaking on this item then. Okay. Then now I'm ready for a motion. Commissioner Lingenfelter.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as recommended by staff.
And Commissioner Lally.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Motion passes 8-0. Items for individual consideration.
Items for individual consideration. Public hearing items. Unless instructed otherwise by the chair, speakers will be called in the order registrations are received. Applicants are limited to a total of 15 minutes of presentation time with a 5-minute rebuttal if needed. Remaining speakers are limited to 30 total minutes of testimony time with 3 minutes assigned per speaker. The presiding officer may modify these times as deemed necessary. Administrative consideration items must be approved if they meet city development regulations. Legislative consideration items are more discretionary except as constrained by legal considerations. Non-public hearing items. The presiding officer will permit limited public comment for items on the agenda not posted for a public hearing. The presiding officer will establish time limits based upon the number of speaker requests, length of the agenda, and to ensure meeting efficiency, and may include a total time limit.
All right. Item number 1.
Agenda item number 1, Bob Woodruff Park, Addition Block A, Lots 1R and 2. Request to reinstate approval of a revised site plan for a park playground on 2 lots on 187.1 acres located at the northeast corner of Park Boulevard and Spring Creek Parkway. Zoned agricultural, estate development, single-family residence 9, and single-family residence, attached and located within the Parkway Overlay District. The applicant is the City of Plano. This item is for legislative consideration.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is T.R. Clark. I'm a planner with the Planning Department. Bob Woodruff Park is located at the northeast corner of Park Boulevard and Spring Creek Parkway. The park improvements as part of the approved revised site plan were scheduled to occur in 2 phases. Phase 1 proposed renovations to the existing playground and parking lot, while Phase 2 proposed renovations to the existing trail system. The revised site plan was originally approved by the Commission on July 15, 2024. The construction was ultimately delayed after discovering severe erosion of the existing pedestrian bridge. Because of this delay, the site plan reached its 2-year expiration date on July 15th of this year. Article 3.700 of the zoning ordinance state that 60 days prior to or following the lapse of approval, the applicant may petition to the Commission for an extension or reinstatement of a revised site plan. In determining whether to grant this request, the Commission can consider 3 criteria, which is listed on the screen. The first is the reason for the lapse, and so, as mentioned on the previous slide, the erosion of the pedestrian bridge delayed this project. The second is determining whether the property owner's ability to comply with any conditions of approval. And in this case, the revised site plan was approved without any conditions. And the third is determining if any newly adopted regulation should apply to the plan. And staff found that no newly adopted regulations would apply to this development. And so with that, staff recommends approval of the request.
All right, Commissioners, any questions of staff on this item? Seeing Commissioner Lally.
So I have a question. Is this the site plan, the same site plan that we're approving that was approved in 2024?
That's correct.
And the report says that the bridge is going to change. So are we approving with the changes, or are we just extending the period of the same site plan?
Yes, so that type of change would typically be at a staff administrative approval. They have intended that they will be doing that, but they need to get the plan back into effect in order to allow a staff administrative change to the bridge.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions of staff? All right. Ms. Baker, I do believe we still do have one registered speaker, correct?
Yes, it's Mr. Khan.
Okay, and I guess Mr. Khan came in, okay. All right, Commission? Commissioner Bender,
Motion to approve?
Commissioner Lingenfelter.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve as presented by the staff. Please vote. Motion passes 8-0. If you'd go ahead and read items 2A and 2B together, please.
Agenda item number 2A, request to amend Plan Development 145 General Office on 8.2 acres of land out of the Benjamin Brewster Survey, abstract number 107, located on the east side of Coit Road, 520 feet north of Spring Creek Parkway in the city of Plano, Collin County, Texas, to add mini warehouse, public storage, and truck bus leasing as permitted uses with modified development standards. The petitioner is Americo Real Estate Company of Texas. This item is for legislative consideration. Agenda item number 2B, U-Haul storage of Spring Creek and Plano, Block A, Lot 1, mini warehouse, public storage, and truck bus leasing on one lot on 7 acres located on the east side of Coit Road, 520 feet north of Spring Creek Parkway, Zone Plan Development 145 General Office. The applicant is Americo Real Estate Company of Texas. This item is for administrative consideration pending agenda item 2A.
Good evening, Commission. Molly Coriel with the Planning Department. This is a zoning case with a concept plan paired with it for the rezoning of a property located here off of Coit Road, approximately 1,000 feet north of Spring Creek Parkway. The applicant is requesting to table the item to September 8th. I do want to note that this recommendation slide says August 17th, but staff had met with the applicant ahead of this meeting after the slides had been in the agenda and the packet had been completed, and they are modifying their request to be tabled for the September 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Staff is recommending that the commission accept this petitioner's request to table to the September 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I'm available for any questions, and thank you very much.
Commission, questions of staff. Commissioner Brunoff.
Yes. Is September 8th enough time for the applicant to be ready to go?
Yes, the reason for the tabling is that the applicant and staff want some additional time to handle discrepancies between the proposed operations and the design shown on the concept plan. This will require some cleanup, but we believe that they will be ready for the September 8th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ali.
Along the same lines, between first submission, staff review, and apparently the conversation today or yesterday, was there enough time for them to remediate the comments that staff left when they first submitted this petition?
I believe some of the questions arose from our director review, which happens as the reports are prepared. And so it was somewhat of a questions that were asked. And so based on those discussions, we felt like we needed more time to just make some refinements.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Lally, did you? Okay, this is a public hearing, so we do need to open the public hearing. And even though this item is being tabled, it was advertised as a public hearing, and so out of respect for the citizens that may have come out tonight to testify, we will take the time to listen to you. So anybody, if you could call the people that have registered to speak.
We have Muhammad Khan, followed by Catherine Dungan and Monica Lahar.
Looks like Mr. Khan still has not joined us, so, okay.
Then Catherine Dungan.
I'm going to pass until September 8th.
Monica Lahar. And then followed by Katrina McBride and Michelle Masucci.
And Ms. Dungan, just so you know, if you would need to re-register on September 8th to speak when the time comes, please. If you'll-
Okay, my name is Monica Lahar. I'm a resident of Plano for over 30 years. I've lived at this address, 6501 Castile, since 2007. So my house, there is no buffer between my backyard and the Bluebonnet Trail and the proposed 3-story or 4-story, whatever, atrocity. I mean, it's just ridiculous. There is no buffer when you're standing in front of my house to the right. It goes straight to Coit Road. The noise already is almost, awful. So what's going to happen again when they start the construction, if they start the construction, it gets approved, which I hope it doesn't, because I'll be forced to move. I can no longer afford to live there because every year I spent like $3,000 building up the back of my fence, the other side of the fence facing the trail. And the city finally sort of kind of fixed that. So the last 2 years I didn't have to spend quite as much. But I'm not doing that anymore just to be in a house that I'm going to be forced to sell because it will not be safe for me to live there. And I'm going to lose money on it. Because these people that use storage facilities, they're transient people. They're not invested in the city of Plano. If you watch any kind of like TV documentaries, they're people that live in those storage units because they're homeless. And that one is actually the kind that they want because there's a fitness center across where they can take a shower. And I watched this I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, whoa. And so they're not invested in it. They don't care about anything. Then they also have to consider the rat infestation. Plano does have a rat infestation. When they start uprooting all those trees and all that stuff, guess where those rats and whatever is going to end up? It's going to end up in my backyard. I don't have the resources, or I just can't, I'm in my 70s, so I will be forced to sell my house in my 70s and move at a loss. And I did not expect this from Plano. I expected better after 30 years. And the traffic, all of us are forced, we can't even go out Sailmaker onto Coit Road. We have to go down Denham, and I used to rent a house on Denham before I bought this one, because it's not safe. A police cruiser even told me when I saw them sitting there, and I said, well, what can we do? I've lived here for 17 years. I have never seen anybody get a ticket because they make those U-turns right there. And she's like, well, you really need to find a safe way to get out of your neighborhood. I wouldn't even make a left-hand turn there. That is the police. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I will be forced to move at a loss. In my, by the time this all gets approved and they start, I would be in my mid-70s. And I can't stay in Plano, so I'll have to move out of state too, because I have to take a loss on my house. All of us, we invested into Plano. All the people that sitting here, we have been here for a long time. We invested, and we're all going to be, who wants to live like that? We all will have to take a loss after all we put into the city. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
We have Katrina McBride, followed by Michelle Masucci. Yes, we have a device there that we can highlight on the screen.
Oh, so don't use the handouts? Okay. Okay. Thanks. Lots of copies. I've never used one of these before.
If you'd introduce yourself as well.
Hi, my name's Katrina McBride. And thank you for this opportunity for my neighbors and I to talk to you about this. This is a concern of us, of course. I'm very proud of my city, and I'm super proud of Carpenter Park. I think it's beautiful. And that's my biggest concern, is Carpenter Park. I've been a resident of Plano for 30 years, 15 years in Biltmore. We're a long-term community. Mostly older people, I'll be honest with you.
If you can stay close to the microphone so we can hear you, please.
Like that?
Perfect, thank you.
God, I'm loud.
You don't have to be that close, but close. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyways, my hope that you guys as our representatives will help us. We've worked with the city before, especially with the Parks Department when they were going to build the skate park right across the street from my house. And we negotiated and we got it moved to the west side, and it's been wonderful. So we're hoping we can have that kind of success again. This is what we're looking at. This is going to be so pretty. And I have nothing against U-Haul. I think it's a wonderful company. I've used them often. But when I go to rent my trucks, I go to a industrial area to rent my truck. And this is not this is not an industrial area. And it's not zoned that way, which is the purpose, right, is to rezone it. And this building also, these buildings are also right across from Carpenter. And they're also aligned with the Bluebonnet Trail and the, what's it called? The Preston Ridge Trail. They cross Coit right in front of this building with bikers and kids and all that sort of stuff. So that's another concern. The Parker Sports Complex, I know everybody knows what it looks like. It's a big, beautiful place. It's a very busy place. The Bluebonnet Trail runs right across here, and then that's where this goes, right here. And Petra mentioned traffic. We have a lot of traffic on Coit. According to business intelligence, I have all the sources on the deck. The traffic volume between Coit and Legacy, which is kind of the area we're most concerned about, is almost 38,000 a day, and then on Legacy, 32.5. That's a lot of traffic every day. Of course, the storage units are going to add some to that, with trucks coming in and out. And unfortunately, a lot of those trucks are going to be driven by people like me who don't know what they're doing.
30 seconds.
Oh, wow, okay. So I'll get on to the more important stuff here. Sorry. What our concern is the park. We're concerned about the traffic with the kids at the park, because the timing for the truck rentals is going to be almost exactly the timing for the kids at the park and the kids walking across Denham to go to school at Robinson Middle School. So that's my concern as a citizen. I don't want it in my backyard. Nobody wants these things. But I'm more concerned about how it's going to affect the entire community and the people that live there and the kids and the parents that use the park a lot.
Thank you. Appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
I had a lot more to say, guys.
Well, good news is we'll be back on September 8th. You can
Right,
give us
and
the
I'll
second
finish-
half of it
I'll
then.
start there and go forward. Thank you, gentlemen.
Perfect.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Last, we have Michelle Masucci.
Hi, I'm Michelle Masucci. I don't have a fancy presentation. I've lived in Biltmore Patio Association for 43 years, and we've seen our share of redos and rezonings, and we have the gigantic Carpenter Park with all the soccer fields across the street, right across the street on Coit. Our sailmaker comes out directly onto Coit. You go a half a block, and we have the bike trail with the large utility lines going right through the bike trail. Just on the other side of that, we back up to that bike trail as Ms. Lahar said, her house is one of many that back up to that bike trail. Then we have the power lines, and then we have what they want to do next door across those power lines. So we're directly affected by that, not only by visual effects, but also the drainage. They just redid there on the bike trail, and it flooded all those homes along there until they did that. So we've now got that fixed, and what is this big piece of concrete going to do? It will come right back into our neighborhood again. And the traffic right now is dreadful. I don't know if any of y'all have been at Carpenter Park during soccer season or whatever season it is. On a normal day, they have, I believe they said, over 1,000 people that register or that click in. And since Muhlenbeck Center was closed, they received all of those people. Now those people don't want to leave. They still come to Carpenter Park. So we've got all that traffic coming both directions, and then when Chick-fil-A becomes viable again, that's the worst. So, and we have tons of foot traffic going in and out. The kids, I'm a crossing guard. I out of Robinson Middle School alone in the afternoons, I let 120 walkers go. And they all go down to Carpenter Park or the Recreation Center.
30 seconds.
Chick-fil-A and Whataburger. So that's, and the aesthetics, we understand that it's probably zoned for the 4-story building, but the trucks, the panel trucks with the wrapped panels on them with the U-Haul labels and all that, that's just not a neighborhood thing. They need to be out away from the interior of a neighborhood.
If you can wrap it up for us, please.
I'm sorry?
If you can wrap it up for us, please. You're out of time.
Well, that's basically it. We feel like we've got enough mini storage around that there's 4-story buildings at the end of Spring Creek, almost to the tollway. So we figure, it can be eliminated or moved or have something else there instead of this parking lot, which that's what it'll look like.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any other registered speakers?
No, sir.
All right. I'll close the public hearing. Commissioner Bronski.
I have a couple questions, Ms. Coriel.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. So first, some of the citizens have talked about traffic and the impacts that this might have. Are we going to receive something on that? I'm sure the city's working on the impact.
Yes. Sorry. Yes, traffic has been pinpointed as a concern as part of the zoning case, so staff has been evaluating that concern throughout this process, and there will be information on that at the September 8th meeting. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Bell.
Also, I think I remember a couple other cases where drainage became a very important topic. Are we being very cautious about paying attention to what this impact might have on drainage, especially listening to some of the issues that people are talking about?
Mr. Bell, beyond our typical civil review, have there been any additional studies required as part of this request?
So this is still just a zoning level, so it is very conceptual drainage plans at this point. The detailed drainage plans will get reviewed with the site plans as they proceed through the process.
Okay. And one of the things near and dear to my heart, public input. Has this developer had public meetings looking for and soliciting feedback from the public?
That is a good question. I am not aware. I know Matt Merrill with U-Haul, right, is here today, but he's not registered to speak, but that would be a good question for the applicant.
Okay. And I'm wondering about, last thing was, I don't remember her first name, Monica spoke about, on the backside of that, I think, is that where she is talking about, will there be some sort of buffering between, I can't think of where she was at, but will there be any buffering needed between any residential or this development?
Mr. Bell?
Yes. The site plan and the concept plan will be brought forward with the September 8th meeting. I hesitate to get into details at this point because they may change between now and then. However, there is discussion of buffering and mitigation for neighboring properties.
Okay. Yeah, and that's kind of why I was trying to stay very general about some of my questions, because I do look forward to that feedback. So that's what I have for right now, so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bronski.
Commissioner Brunoff?
Yeah, no, I just say generally, I hope the staff would evaluate and make a presentation to us about any impacts that this development might have on surrounding properties, and I'm sure you know what those might be. That said, I'm prepared to make a motion that we...
We have two other commissioners with their lights on, so give me just a minute.
Okay.
I'll come back to you. Commissioner Ollie?
This is more of a tactical question for the public comments from today. For those who may not be able to come back to the September 8th, do we have a way of memorializing, printing that out, writing that out for us so that we have it in front of us September 8th, so that September 8th is in a month? My memory ain't that good. I don't want to forget what has been said today, essentially.
There won't be a transcript of the comments. Anything in writing will be provided, but also a link to the video is typically provided when there's tabling.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Lingenfelter?
I know we'll address this on the 8th, but I don't know if you're prepared to even speak to this, but how is this aligned with our concept plan for this property?
So a part of the reason for the request for tabling is that there needs to be an alignment with the operational elements of the plan, of the site with the concept plan. So staff and the applicant want to work together to make sure that the desired operational use of the site is aligned with the concept plan that they're bringing forward. There was some alignment issues, which is why we're requesting to table the item, but that is the goal of staff and the applicant to work together to make sure that what's being shown on the concept plan as part of the zoning case aligns with their operational desires. Maybe not the word. They want an alignment on those things.
Absolutely. That's just a quick overview. When I looked at it, even though I saw it was tabled, I did look at it a little bit, and I was concerned. I did not see an alignment with the concept plan, which would make me think there's findings coming, and which I would not be in favor for.
Commissioner Bronski?
Yeah, so if we're going to entertain this tabling, I would like to be able to ask the gentleman from U-Haul a question relative to seeking public input.
All right. Mr. Merrill, is it correct? If you're willing, would you be willing to answer a couple of questions for us? Sure. If you'd introduce yourself and give us your affiliation and your address, please.
Name's Matt Merrill with America Real Estate, which is the real estate arm of U-Haul. I'm the area vice president for North Texas. Address is 4101 West Plano Parkway.
Mr. Merrill, thanks for joining us. Sure. So you've obviously heard some of the concerns of the citizens. One of the things that I feel very important and I think plays a key role into making Plano the community that it is, that we ask and very much encourage developers along the process to engage their neighbors, both the residential as well as the commercial and retail. And so my question is, what has been the process that you guys have gone through in engaging the neighborhood?
We have not had any neighborhood meetings on here. It's something that we can look at trying to get done before the September 8th meeting, or potentially postponing a little bit further if that's something we can do to have a neighborhood meeting. We've just been working diligently with staff for months now. We've owned this property for 30 years, so again, just trying to find something that looks in staff. And I mean, I've got lots of notes for Mr. Ollie here. I can read them all back to you. I got all the notes you need for September 8th to take that stuff into account and try to address some of those concerns. You know.
So traditionally, our staff does encourage developers that, to seek public input, and I would encourage you that I believe that there's always ways to find a common ground, and I think you might do well to look and listen to what the residents want, and not that you have to give in to everything, but I do think people deserve a hearing, and I very much want to encourage you to find a way to set up a public meeting so that you can hear the citizens and give yourself some time to be able to look at what you've got and what they're saying to see if maybe we can find something that works for everybody.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Commissioner Tong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say, I'm sorry, not for you. I'm just saying that all the citizens come out today, we really appreciate, because we need your input. And there's a way to express yourself. If you cannot make it on September 8th, please put in a written response to the case. That way, all your responses will be printed out and attached to our material in the meeting, so we will be able to read it. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? No? Oh, Mr. Brunoff.
Yeah. In light of Commissioner Bronski's questions to you about public input, do you still think you can be ready to present your case to us on September 8th, or do you need a longer extension?
If we're going to put a public meeting, I'd be more than willing to postpone, because we're still working with staff. I mean,
Yeah.
I walked out of staff's office at 5:30 today. Again, just trying to make sure what we're showing on the plan is reflective of what they believe they see on the plan is actually what we're doing.
Well.
So I would think that to have a public meeting, I need to still work through some staff stuff to be able to get there, so I think that we would probably need some more time.
Okay, so our meeting after September 8th would be... Oh, I know, but I'm saying I would prefer to give him as much time as he needs up front to be ready to present to us, rather than have a string of postponements.
Yeah, we don't have to put a date on it, so we can just table it for future consideration, and
okay.
then they'll bring it back to us when they're ready.
Okay,
That's correct. Staff will have to renotice.
We'd have to
send
renotice
out
it.
Notices.
Yeah.
okay.
That's correct.
So that would be an indefinite postponement?
I think the motion would just be just a table without a date, correct?
Okay,
We'll just have to send out notices again once we establish a date.
are you ready for a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm fine with that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Brunoff, I think we're ready for a motion.
Thank you. I move that we table items 2A and 2B.
Separate motions, please.
I move that we table item 2A at a date to be determined later.
Commissioner Alali.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table to a future meeting. Please vote. Motion passes 8-0. Commissioner Bronski
I move we table item 2B.
and Commissioner Alali.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table item 2B.
Mr. Ollie, we need your vote.
Yeah, motion passes 8-0. Thank you, sir, for coming out
Thank you.
tonight. We'll look forward to seeing you again soon.
Just to clarify for those who are here, in case there's any confusion, staff will have to resend notices to property owners within 200 feet. So when that date is established, we will send the notices out. The website will also be updated with the new date. So do not necessarily circle September 8th. It likely will be later than that.
All right. Item number 3.
Agenda item number 3, request for individual heritage resource designation on .6 acre of land out of the Thomas M. Archer Survey, abstract number 14, located on the east side of Westwood Drive, 255 feet north of Westbrook Drive, in the city of Plano, Collin County, Texas, presently zoned single-family residence 7. The petitioners are Michelle and Kevin Giltner. This item is for legislative consideration.
Good evening. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Anna Suter, planner for the Planning Department. I will be joined by Mr. Bhavesh Mittal, the city's Heritage Preservation Officer. This item is request to designate the property at 1012 Westwood Drive and individual heritage landmark with modified development standards. My request to designate the adjacent property at 1016 Westwood Drive will be presented under item number 4. For both items, I will provide the introduction, then turn to the presentation over to Mr. Mittal to discuss the heritage aspects of the request. I will then return to present the remaining information and staff recommendation. The subject property is located on the east side of Westwood Drive, directly across from Westwood Park. It is within a neighborhood zoned single-family residence 7. The property is developed with single-family home constructed in 1970s as part of the Dallas North Estates residential subdivision. To provide more information about the history of the site, I will now turn to the presentation to Mr. Mittal.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, Chair and Commission members. My name is Bhavesh Mittal, Heritage Preservation Officer at the Planning Department. Before I go into the property, I just want to give a quick overview of what is a heritage landmark. I know we have several new commission members that may not be fully aware, so I want to just spend a few minutes talking about what is a heritage landmark. So again, you probably heard the term individually designated heritage resource. That's what we have identified officially, but we also call it as a heritage landmark, just a simple short term to identify that. It could be a structure like a house or a commercial building in downtown like the Masonic Lodge, or it could be a site like a cemetery. We have a couple of cemeteries designated in Plano, or it could be a landmark like Texas Pool, which is located in the same neighborhood that we're going to look at the two properties tonight. Again, when these properties are up for designation, it just does not include the structure itself. It's the entire site. So it will include any other associated buildings, outbuildings, fences, and things like that. The difference is they may not be contributing. So at that time, we will establish what's contributing and what's not contributing. Now, the main thing is these landmarks need to be recognized for either historical, cultural, architectural, or archaeological significance. So there's a criteria that's outlined that I'm going to go in a minute, that they need to meet these criteria to meet one of these significance. And lastly, they need to be officially designated by City Council. So just applying and going through Heritage Commission or Planning and Zoning Commission does not designate it officially. It needs to be formally approved by the Plano City Council to get the designation. And these designations are separate from a district. Like in Plano, we have two heritage districts, the Haggard Park and downtown. So these are strictly meant for individual structures or sites. And as we have in Plano, these structures could be either located in the heritage districts or outside the heritage districts. We have an example. Chair Ratliff lives in a heritage landmark building, which is located in Haggard Park Heritage District. So why would someone or an organization look into designating a building? First and foremost, I think you want to bring it to attention to really recognize the significance of that building. So it helps bring attention to the general public that such a historic building exists in Plano, whether it's architectural significance, archaeological, cultural, or historical significance. And it additionally provides some protection to this building. We have a heritage preservation ordinance that requires review. If somebody were to demolish these buildings, there are significant or strict criteria they need to meet. In my 14 years in Plano, I've not seen any heritage landmark building demolished. So that's a good news. So it definitely helps some protection to these designations once they're designated. They get a H, suffix H, like as you see in this slide over here, H30, H31, H32. So once they get it designated, they will get a suffix with that building number. So in this instance, the next two properties would be, I believe, 37 and 38. I don't know the exact number, but that's what that overlay zoning comes with the H suffix. And once they're designated, they have the ability to ask for some zoning amendments. Some of the examples that I can cite is in the past, Heritage Farmstead Museum that you see up on the slide, by zoning, they're not allowed to have decomposed granite walkways or things like that. There are certain restrictions of using materials as per a zoning ordinance. So if they are individual landmarks, they have the ability to ask for these kind of amendments to zoning ordinance. And so this helps these sites to ask for some additional amendments. It could be material, it could be use related, it could be anything. But just asking for it does not mean they automatically get it. They have to go through the public hearing process, the same process, first with the Heritage Commission, followed by Planning and Zoning Commission, followed by final approval from City Council. But they get the ability to at least request those amendments. The most important benefit is tax exemptions. If you are a heritage landmark in Plano, there are 4 classifications of tax exemptions that you can get. For these landmark buildings, they can get a maximum 100% tax exemption on their property taxes, which is strictly on the structure only, and if they are used for residential use only. So 100% for residential use on property taxes, on structures only. You still have to pay the taxes on your land. Now, these same landmark buildings, if they are used for non-residential use, whether in part or full, like we have some buildings in downtown, the Bagwell Sherrill building, the exemption cuts down to half, 50%. So 100% for residents and 50% for non-residential. The other 2 classifications we have is for the buildings that are not landmark, but just located in the historic districts. So again, for residential use, those non-landmark buildings will get 75% tax exemption. And then for non-residential use in the districts would get 38%, half of that. So those are the 4 classifications of tax exemption. So if these buildings are designated this year, they will be eligible to participate in the tax exemption program starting next year, 2027. And as of now, there are 3 taxing entities that participate in this program: City of Plano, Plano School District, and Collin College. The 4th taxing entity, which is Collin County, has their own tax abatement program that the property owners can apply directly with the county and take advantage of that program. So if you are a landmark building, you would be eligible to apply for the Collin County tax exemption program as well. Last but not the least, if these properties are owned by nonprofit organizations, some of you might be familiar with the Heritage Farmstead Museum. It's a nonprofit organization, one of the very well-preserved farmsteads in Plano. Hope you have visited at some point of the year. If not, I would encourage you all to go and check this out. So they are run by nonprofit organizations, and they do a lot of activities that generate tourism in Plano, educational activities, summer camps, Lights on the Farm, very popular event during Christmas, and things like that. So if you have such a setup that brings people in Plano, not only from Plano, not only from Texas, from across the country, around the world, they can take advantage of the Heritage Grants program, which is strictly generated from the hotel motel tax revenue that Plano receives. So we have set criteria to how they can use these grant monies to, whether it's restoration of the structure, whether it's educational programs to generate tourism, whether it's events and things like that. So these are some of the benefits of getting a landmark designation. So as of now, we have 35 heritage landmarks in Plano. They are identified by these yellow circles. As you see in the map, out of those 35, 33 are individual structures and 2 of them are cemeteries. The last designation that came in front of you guys or approved by the City Council was back in 2023, the Texas Pool. As you see, most of these designations are on the east side of US Highway 75, with just 2 of them are located on the west side. So if the 2 applications in front of you all tonight get finally approved by the City Council, that would make the count to 4. So what are we looking in terms of criteria when we are trying to designate these structures? As per our Heritage Preservation Ordinance, the first basic criteria is the building needs to be, or site needs to be at least 50 years or older. And then in addition to that, there are 8 criteria, as you see in the slide, that they need to meet at least 2 of those 8 criteria to apply for or take forward their designation. Tonight, for this particular property, they are seeking designation for the 3 highlighted criteria, number 2, 4, and 7, that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Lastly, what does the designation process looks like? It's a public hearing, like any other zoning case, but in this instance, it first goes to the Heritage Commission, which happened in the month of July. July 15, the Heritage Commission recommended 6-0 approval. And the next step would be in front of you guys, Planning and Zoning Commission. That's happening tonight, after which the recommendations goes to the City Council, which is currently stated for August 24th. And once the City Council approves it, it's officially designated. So with that, I would like to talk about the first property, which is 1012 Westwood Drive. As you see in the image here, it's located in the Dallas North Estates, the same neighborhood that the Texas Pool is located, so you can see how close it is to the Texas Pool, the last designated heritage landmark building in Plano. I'm going to talk about the historical significance of this particular house. This house is related to Donna Bell Bogus Harrington. She is the mother of one of the Plano's past mayor, Mayor Rob Harrington Jr., who served as one of the youngest mayors in Plano, probably in Texas. And Donna Bogus Harrington is the daughter of Henry Dye Bogus. Now, Henry Dye Bogus is a very prominent Plano pioneer families that came to Plano after the Civil War. And there is one elementary school, I think it's on the border of Plano and Murphy, probably in St. Louis of Murphy. It's named after Henry Dye Bogus, the Bogus Elementary School. So Donna Bogus Harrington is associated with both Harrington and the Bogus families, whose civic leadership and public service helped shape Plano's development back in the time. So she also happens to be the salutatorian of Plano's high school class of 1917, which is very unique of her era of time back in 1917, high school. So she was very, very academically good, and she was officially recognized by the Texas legislature as a distinguished Plano citizen and one of the oldest living Plano High School graduate. She lived up to the age of 105. So as mentioned before, she happens to be the mother of Plano's past mayor, Robert Lee Harrington Jr., whose leadership helped guide Plano's transition from a small agriculture town to a planned suburban city. Donna also lived with her other son, Don Harrington, as you see the image, who was the brother of Mayor Rob Harrington. The house was commissioned by Mayor Rob Harrington while he was living in the adjacent house in 1016 Westwood Drive, the agenda item number 4 on the commission agenda. So he commissioned to build this house while living in the other house, which was built in 1974. Here's an image of showing both the houses. So it's commonly known as the Harrington family compound. You could see just separated by one small fence. In fact, the current property owners have a just gate. You could just, go from one backyard to the other backyard with a beautiful view of the Pittman Creek in the back. Secondly, I'm going to talk about the historical context, especially the neighborhood that's in the Dallas North Estates. It's one of the first planned communities in Plano, or probably North Texas. This was envisioned by William Herbert Hunt, which is a very famous oil tycoon, commonly or well known in Texas and probably nationwide. So this was envisioned by one of his sons, and back in 1959, at which time Plano was just growing from an agricultural, small town agricultural to a planned suburban community. This is the time when you have the US Highway 75 coming in. This is the time when TI opened their campus. So this particular development really transitioned Plano from a small agricultural community to a growing, well-planned suburb. Also, one of the unique things of this planned development was it featured everything: schools, churches, parks, and surely this Texas pool was one of the selling point for encouraging or bringing in folks to buy houses in Plano. Just to show you what was going on back then, so you can see some of the USGS maps. So prior to 1960, you can see pretty much what was there in Plano was pretty much around downtown, highlighted in that upper map in the red color. Then when you suddenly switch to the USGS map in 1968, you can see the purple areas that started to develop. So that red dotted square is where the current Dallas North Estates are. So you could clearly see how Plano was growing from that time. And it was one of the first planned communities or suburbs in Plano. Again, this also became one of the model for future developments in Plano. Because of the development, population grew. As you can see, there was almost a 383% rise of population in that decade from 1960 to 1970. So this was a significant development at that time that was, again, associated with growth in Plano. I'm going to talk about a little bit architectural description of this unique house. Firstly, as you see, one of the unique features of this house is oriented at almost 45 degrees, so it's not sitting perpendicular to the street like many of the other houses in this neighborhood. It's mainly done to fit the needs of the site, the topography, and most importantly, the view of the Pittman Creek. So orienting it to 45 degree maximizes the view from their backyard, and then the other elements of the building that really has an amazing view. It's designed by a very well-known Texas architect, Jim Scroggins, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, who was very well known to design buildings for Texas modernism using simple Texas local materials. Again, he would design his buildings to fit nature, getting a lot of natural light, site conditions, and some other features that I'm going to talk about when I'm going to talk about Jim Scroggins. You can also see the letter, that original letter from Jim Scroggins to Rob Harrington about when the project was going on. We're very fortunate. The current property owner has all the architectural drawings very well preserved. Again, you could see how the design integrates into the nature in the backyard, this beautiful screen porch in the back. Again, one of the unique features of this house was the house was designed for accessibility needs. Don Harrington had a life-threatening accident that made him permanently immobile. So to address a lot of his needs, this house was designed to accessibility long before the ADA came into act. Like you see, this house had an intercom system, lower counter heights, and some other features that maybe the property owner can address when they speak at that point. So again, a very unique feature back in 1967 to have the house designed for accessibility needs. Lastly, I'm going to talk about Jim Scroggins and his significance. So again, a very well-known, noted Texas architect who was a principal of Grogan and Scroggins Associates in North Texas. He was known to reshape post-war architecture in North Texas. Some of his famous structures designed locally is the Irving City Hall that you see the image on the upper right-hand corner. Also, he designed mostly civic buildings, commercial, educational facilities. This Houston Elementary School in Plano, a building that you see in the bottom slide images. And his work reflects principles of Texas modernism, which is, again, simple asymmetrical forms using natural materials, again, seamless indoor and outdoor integration, climate and site-responsive designs. So Jim Scroggins also received numerous awards professionally from all the organizations, including AIA and several other organizations as included in the packet, if you all get a chance to review the Heritage Commission staff reports. One of the most prominent things was he was nationally recognized advocate for deaf rights. As he was in college, he worked a lot with deaf kids, and he was instrumental in establishing the Texas Commission of the Deaf. So the Donna Harrington House is one of the very rare and highly intact examples of Jim Scroggins. As I mentioned earlier, there are very few residential structures designed. We couldn't find many, definitely not in Plano. So that's why it makes it much more unique and showcasing his emphasis on human-centered design, accessibility, and integration of architecture with natural landscape. I'm going to talk about how the house meets the three criteria. So criteria number 2 is associated with events that have made a significant contribution to the broad patterns of local, regional, state, or national history. Clearly, this represents one of the buildings in Plano's post-World War suburban growth as intact in the Dallas North Estates neighborhood, as I mentioned earlier. So it clearly meets the criteria number 2. Criteria number 4, it clearly represents one of the work of master designers, builder, craftsman, which is Jim Scroggins. And lastly, criteria number 7 is identified with the person who significantly contributed to culture and development of the city, strongly associated with Donna Harrington and Mayor Rob Harrington, who commissioned the construction of this house, whose leadership was significant at the time he served as the mayor of Plano. So in summary, the structure clearly has exceptional historical, architectural, and cultural merits. It meets 3 criteria. So definitely more than 2 of the ordinance, and it is one of the Plano's most intact mid-century ranch-style house. It recognizes significance of the Harrington family, architect Jim Scroggins, and Dallas North Estates neighborhood. And lastly, it meets the goals of 2024 Heritage Preservation Plan by recognizing an important resource from Plano's post-war suburban development. With that, I'm going to give it back to Anna to complete the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal. The property's SF7 zoning requires a 10-foot side yard setback. However, the building was constructed approximately 9 feet from both sides of the property lines. This is likely due to the 1967 conveyance of a strip of land from the adjacent property. As a result, the ownership boundaries shown in the deed no longer match the platted lot lines. The residence was later constructed using the deeded boundaries, resulting in the setback discrepancy. The request includes a stipulation to reduce the side yard setback to 9 feet. Staff supports the reduction to recognize this long-standing condition and bring the property into compliance with its zoning. The subject property is located within the neighborhood category of the future land use map. which is encourage maintaining established neighborhood character. The request is consistent with the goals of this category. In addition to meeting the future land use map, it also meets the heritage preservation policy. We received one response in support from the property owner. We received 2 responses within 200 feet of the property, one in support and one in opposition. We have a total of 7 citywide response, 2 in support, 5 in opposition. However, staff believes 3 out of 5 in opposition were intending to comment on a different zoning case. The request is to designate 1012 Westwood Drive as a heritage landmark, as the property meets 3 of the 8 designation criteria, with a 9-foot setback, with a 9-foot side yard setback. The Heritage Commission recommends approval by a vote of 6-0, and staff also recommends approval of the request as submitted. Mr. Mittal and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. I'm going to lead off with a question for Mr. Mattel, please. First of all, great presentation. Learned a lot about that. It was very thorough.
Thank you.
One of the architectural elements that I thought was very unique is the accessibility of the interior of the structure, and I presume the access to the structure as well. But I know that the Heritage Commission doesn't regulate anything inside the building. So was that part of your evaluation criteria, or was it purely about the exterior style, et cetera, which is, you spent time on both, so I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think, yes, you're right. The Heritage Commission does not review anything on the inside. But I think why it's worth mentioning is back in the day, not too many structures were designed to meet the accessibility standards, because the ADA, I believe, came into regulation somewhere in 1974 or something at that time frame. So clearly when the house was built, you know, it was very uncommon to design a house to meet those kind of a needs. So Jim Scroggins, his association with working with deaf kids and that kind of folks, I think he was very sensitive to design places to meet kind of folks with special needs. So again, it was very well designed to meet the needs for Don Harrington.
So, but it's not part of the evaluation criteria because we can't do anything with the inside, correct?
That is correct,
Okay,
yes.
I'll ask the applicant about that here in just a minute, but, okay. Commissioner Bronski.
Thank you very much. That was, I learned a lot as well. So my question is a little bit, I was looking to see if we could get a little bit more information as it relates to the tax exemption and the impact that we're going to see on the city and what that's going to play out to be long-term.
Are you specifically looking at numbers?
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to say because I think it's based on the estimated appraisal of the property. Typically, that comes out in the month of, I believe, in October. That's when the tax appraisal district assigns the appraised value and then whatever the percentage is. So it's very difficult to give you some numbers, but I can give you some related numbers in Haggard Park that I've seen in terms of saving for landmark buildings. So,
Hang on,
of course.
Hang on just a second. I think we've got to be very careful here because we're supposed to be looking at land use, and so if we look at tax policy, that's really
Well, my
council's
understanding was is
prerogative,
that
so.
information to access, being able to make a decision relative to the financial impact that the land is going to have
Yeah, and I
on
think
the city.
that's not, yeah, I think we need to reserve our questions about land use, let the council address tax policy. That's not really in our purview. Fair. So if we want to ask general questions about the criteria, that's okay, but about this specific property, I think we need to reserve that for the council.
Okay, so what, What criteria qualifies for the different levels of tax exemption that you've described?
Sure. As I mentioned, so it's basically if you're a landmark or if you're not a landmark. So like in this instance, they're applying for a heritage landmark. So if you're a heritage landmark, then either residential or non-residential. The criteria or the exemption rate depends on residential or non-residential use, which is 100 or 50 for residential and non-residential use. And if you're not a landmark, you are just a contributing structure in one of the districts, then you qualify for either 75% for residential use and 38% for non-residential use. So those are the four
So
classifications.
in understanding that, these two properties, what would they qualify for then?
So if approved, if designated, and if they continue to be used as for residence, fully residential use, they would be eligible for 100% tax exemption.
So a 100% tax exemption?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mattal, could you speak to the requirements that come along with an exemption, including an annual inspection and required repairs?
Thank you. Yes. So exemption doesn't mean just you apply and you get the exemption. So there are certain steps that the property owner needs to do. Essentially, is the intent of the tax exemption program is to put the tax dollars back in preserving and maintaining the historic buildings. As you all know, some of you live in a historic building. It's not cheap to maintain these buildings, wood siding, wood windows. I mean, you're talking about a lot of expenses. So the program is intended to have these tax savings reinvested back in these properties to maintain and preserve them. So once you are in the program, staff will go out and do an annual inspection beginning first or second week of January, weather permitting, and they do an extensive survey on the exterior only. We don't go in the backyards, and have a checklist of items that needs to be either maintained or taken care of, and then come back and then inform the property owners to, I need some repair and things like that. So it's just not automatically they receive the exemption. So there's a process involved in it, and there are some times that property owners are deemed not eligible if they are not maintaining the property. So that's the key part, is to keep on maintaining and preserving these landmarks.
Yeah, you're back off, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So you mentioned that they don't go in the backyard, so this is simply a look at the front of the front of the structure?
From public right-of-way, yes. So if a building is located on the corner, yes, then we will look at from public right-of-ways.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry, I want to clarify something as well. So the tax exemption only applies to the house improvement and not to the land value.
Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Chairman. Within our regulations, we consider this a Class A structure, correct?
That is correct, yes,
Okay.
if designated.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Ali.
Commissioner Bender, can you expand on Class A for our education?
Class A is heritage landmark structure used for residential purposes.
Okay, a couple of my questions have been answered. So the landmark designation is on the property, not necessarily the land, meaning if the owner builds something on the land and leaves the property untouched or the house untouched, does that revoke landmark designation for them?
So like in this instance, the designation would be for the entire site.
It's for the site. Okay.
Entire site. Only the tax exemption is given on the improvements, the house itself, or structures. So the tax exemption is not on the land, but the designation would be for the entire site. So to answer your question number two, if they were to build something additionally on the site, which would be, let's say, discussion purpose, they wanted to build an assistant dwelling unit, a second building, or if they want to add on to the structure in the back, build a patio or something like that, yes, they could do that. They have to follow design standards. In this instance, because it's a heritage landmark property, we use the Secretary of Interior standards, which are adopted by the National Park Service. So there are design standards based on what they want to do with the property. So they have to meet those design standards, and again, go in front of the Heritage Commission and seek their approval, what we call as a certificate of appropriateness approval. So it's just another set of kind of approvals they would require. If they were not a heritage property, then they would just simply go to, zoning for any site plan approvals and building inspection for permitting. But if you are a landmark property, and if you are doing improvements, exterior additions, not interior, just exterior, then they require Heritage Commission approvals, and they got to meet the design standards.
So interior, they could essentially cut the house and turn it into, I don't know, postmodern, whatever, and they still meet the spirit of the landmark designation because it's the exterior that matters.
Right, depending on the use, what they're using it for. Again, when you say cutting it down, meaning completely making vacant inside, potentially yes. But again, if the work on the inside affects the exterior, then it does require Heritage Commission review and approvals.
Yeah, and the only reason why I ask is one of the things you brought up was the accessibility. Before the ADA is relatively young. 1990 was when Bush signed it in. So if somebody comes in and goes, I don't want all of this accessibility within the house, and I build walls, I'm making stuff up, right? But the outside is still intact and untouched. That still keeps them as keeps the designation, which in some ways goes against one of the reasons for this being a designated landmark is because of the work of the architect. That's what I'm trying to kind of like square with, right? If you got the work of the architect, is this still, quote, a rare example of Mr. Scoggins' work?
So I think if you got something, and if it, I guess what we're trying to say, if it loses its historic integrity from inside.
Correct.
Kind of for those lines. I think you don't lose a designation, just by destroying the integrity. I think if you were to remove the designation, you have to follow the same process that the property owner follows to get it designated, It has to go through the Heritage Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, City Council approval to get the designation out. So, but to your point, I think your concern is if somebody guts that building from inside, makes it totally hollow, just leaving the exterior shell as is, it would still, as per Plano, it would still be a heritage landmark. Because again, the Heritage Commission, as of now, is only reviewing for exterior and no interior work.
One of the criteria was the rarity of Mr. Scoggins' work in residential. Can you give us a sense of how truly rare that work is? How many Scoggins pieces exist in North Texas?
So as I said, we couldn't find like any other houses in Plano designed by him. I was looking, and even maybe the applicant can also address to that if they are aware of. But that's the only one house we could find in Plano designed by Jim Scroggins. And again, with its unique orientation designed to fit the needs of the site, the Pittman Creek in the back, the views, the topography, and just meeting the needs of Don Harrington at that time makes it really significant. As you see, if you are able to access, I don't have an aerial, but maybe I can see if I can see that aerial. Maybe it might help a little bit to see. So you can see in this aerial, almost every single house is sitting literally parallel to the street or perpendicular street. But this house in the dotted line is at 45 degrees. So that again just shows, what the architect was thinking when he was designing this house is, again, how to maximize the views of Pittman Creek. And, the applicant who's living in the house can probably share their experiences more as me, where I'm just completely just doing an architectural evaluation, but they could speak from their own experiences of what this orientation of the building really means versus if this building was just sitting normally as compared to other houses that are on the street, just sitting parallel to the street.
May I just add something to what Mr. Bhavesh Mittal was saying? Because you were asking if the inside of the house, if they change the inside of the house, will it have the spirit of it being designed a well-renowned architect, correct? Because we went to visit the house itself, both of the houses. And looking at the house, I mean, which you can see on aerial view, it is very unique. I cannot say that if you go inside and you change it, that it will lose the spirit or how the architect intended to design it, because just outside alone, looking at it, for example, the entrance, since it was designed for, I think for a person with disability, you'll notice that it doesn't have stairs in it. Most of it are ramps. So, and of course, with that house being related to being owned by the mother of the mayor, if you'll see the house, it's partly leaning towards the other house, which is the old house of Mayor Harrington. So looking at the house itself too, it has a pathway going to the other house. So, and going from the other house to the mayor's house, going to the mother's house. So the exterior itself is well designed. It is. It has the spirit of what the architect is trying to design and to let's say the architect is trying to say. What I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, by itself, the exterior can stand on its own as a good representation of the architectural design of what the architect is trying to impart, something like that.
The reason why I ask, my house was built in '89. My wife jokes that we had 13 years from historical status, but we gutted the house, when we moved in, partly because my daughter has disabilities and we needed to reinforce the stair structures and a couple of other things, right? But the vibe of the house significantly changes when you walk in the door. That's basically what I'm trying to get at is, for lack of a better word, what forcing mechanism do we have? Because the spirit of the grant and the tax exemptions is that we preserve history for the city. What enforcing mechanisms do we have to make sure we, to a large extent, preserve history while not taking away the homeowner's ability to make changes that may or may not be needed for them to actually live in the house, right? That's basically what I'm trying to push and pull on. One last question, and for this to be designated heritage, it needs to substantially meet, where's my notes, 2 of the criteria, I believe.
Yes, minimum 2.
And again, for me, one of the substantive criteria is the architectural design of Mrs. Coggins. And I guess the second one being the Borges Harrington family and their contribution to Plano. I don't know. I would love to see, as we continue designating landmarks and some level of rigidity that preserves there's real money being put behind preserving these things, that preserves our ability to actually maintain the history and the designation to do what the program was set up to do. So this is more of a, for the Heritage Commission, maybe think about what we can do to make sure we don't lose the spirit of the thing.
All right. That's a good point. We'll make a note of it. Thank you.
If I can interject just one second, I think that's really more of a question for council, but I think they're the ones setting the policy. So our job is to evaluate whether it meets the policy.
Okay. It's more comment and advice.
I understand. I understand. I appreciate it. Commissioner Tong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for the presentation. I really learned a lot about the heritage designation. My question is, because you mentioned the tax exemption, that the property can be used for residential use or non-residential use. So once it gets the designation, can they turn it into like a hotel or a school or any other commercial use?
No, they cannot. So they can be only used for what is it zoned for. So right now, this property is zoned SF7? SF7. So it does not allow any non-residential uses. So they cannot use it. If they intend to change the zoning, like they have the ability, because it's a landmark. If it becomes a landmark, they can ask for some zoning amendments. So let's say in future, they would like to use it for a non-residential use, they have to come back and apply and seek those amendments for those additional uses. And they have to go through the same zoning process, first through the Heritage Commission, then Planning and Zoning Commission, followed by final approval from City Council. So they cannot, currently, once designated, they cannot use for anything that they are not allowed as per current zoning.
Okay, but giving them the designation will allow them to do the amendment, is that right?
They are eligible to apply.
Okay, got you.
They are eligible to apply.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Lawley.
Again, very nice presentation, and I got a lot of my questions answered because I was in line for long. I still have, I appreciate that we have a preservation plan. My question is, does the city, designate or, find these properties, or do, the private citizens, they apply for their property to be designated?
That's a very good question. So it's kind of a both, especially once we receive these applications. So when we do a preservation plan, which was adopted last in 2024, a city goes out and does an extensive survey of properties or neighborhoods that are hitting the 50-year age mark. And then as part of that plan, if you see, we come up with a potential list that identifies that these properties and instances, neighborhoods as well, which could be heritage districts. So we call them as a potential heritage resource or a potential heritage district. So they are listed in the preservation plan as a result of those surveys done by historic preservation consultants, and then list them in the preservation plan. So that if these property owners that are identified as potential heritage resource or neighborhoods that are identified as potential heritage districts, if they want to pursue this designation, then they have a good starting point. We will provide them those survey forms that were done that arrived at that conclusion of identifying them as potential heritage resources, and they can take it on from there and go for designation. A good example is the Texas Pool. Before it was designated, it was identified in the 2018 Heritage Preservation Plan as a potential heritage resource. And in 2023, they came and applied and become a heritage landmark. Now, in this instance, these properties were not surveyed as part of 2024 plan. For whatever reasons, it was not on our radar. And also, it's very difficult for us to know properties that have cultural significance, So thanks to the property owners who reached out to staff and started the process. And during the process, we learned, yes, these properties have cultural significance as well for the people who lived in there and their contribution to the city of Plano and things like that. So in this instance, these properties were not listed in the preservation plan. And so they had to do all the research, all the background, pull together all the information. So hats off to both the applicants for spending a lot of time and effort for researching and getting all the information. They put together a fantastic application and made really work easy for staff.
It is. It's very interesting, property. And I do have another question, is, regarding the use. I know that they cannot turn it into something else because it's residential, like you mentioned. But, can they open their property to the public? Like Swiss Avenue in Dallas, it's open, the interior is preserved, and people go, so in certain times, and, they pay and they go on a tour. So it's going to be, are they allowed to do that?
So I think we have not done recently, but I think a few years back, they used to do walking tours in Haggett Park. So at that time, they would formally arrange house tours, either during holidays time or during, I know we used to do Operation Expedition a few years back. They would kind of do a haunted tour, so some of the houses were open at that time, again, working with the property owner. So there is an ability if the property owner is interested in, opening up for the general public, is totally up to the property owners. But the city does not force them or ask them to do so. It's just either they want to do it themselves or become a part of one of these events that happens in Plano. Sure.
Mr. Vitale, if I can clarify, as long as they're not charging admission, then it borders into becoming a business operating out of here, and they would need to follow business rules.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, and I echo Commissioner Ali, I wish that we can preserve the interior too, but I worked on, preservation district also.
And I can
yeah,
understand
we do all
Commissioner
kind of
Ali's
things,
point.
yeah.
I think, but I think, if I would add to that, I think it's the property, in this instance, these are residences. So it's the residents who actually know what the interior looks like. But for the general public, they have no clue what these buildings look like inside, right? So for general public, it's more of the preservation of the outside of the structure. So it's kind of a difficult, situation at that point. But I can relate to that. If you're living in the house, and if you gut it down, yes, you might see the spirit go away, especially if the property changes hands and the new property owner, they might have no clue of what the property looked like before. So,
Commissioner Bronski.
Okay, so I had one question, but now I have two. So you just mentioned that so long as they're not charging admission, they could open this up. Does that, would that comport with what the rest of the neighbors would expect to have?
I just want to caution, I'd just say that as a word of advisement for anybody who's concerned about visitors, that at some point it may venture into becoming not a residence and a business. I won't comment beyond that.
So there is a possibility for the neighbors to have this particular property, people coming and going, so long as there's no cost to it?
I don't envision that. I think what I was referring to, again, sometimes they do just events, some tours, just to open up as part of, holiday season or, Halloween time, just an opportunity for people to see historic homes. I mean, all the cities do it. McKinney does it, Dallas does it, so it's very, very common.
My question was only that there is the possibility.
It's totally up to the property owner.
Okay. My other question, it goes back to Commissioner Ali and Ban's question. Has the city ever considered preservation easements for the interiors? Because you made an argument that it was the view from the inside looking out was part of what made this significant. And so would a preservation easement protect the interior and that view you described?
To my knowledge, I think City of Plano has never gone that route. I think City of Plano policy is discouraging trying to, put in all these regulations. It becomes kind of a hardships on these property owners, especially if you're a homeowner. Leave aside if the property is, in an area where you need some expansion for streets and things like that. But City of Plano typically discourages doing that.
Okay, but there is do any other cities do that?
Not to my knowledge.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
You're welcome.
And I can answer a couple of the questions that have been posed just as an owner of a historic home. A lot of us do open our homes for special events, tours of homes, the apparition expedition. People ask to use our homes for different things, and most of us are happy to do those things, not all of us. And so there are gatherings at our homes because people want to see them. But I never charge anybody, never have, never will, because that's part of owning a historic structure is allowing people to see it in my book. So that's just my 2 cents. Okay, no other questions from the commission. We do have a public hearing on this item, so let me open the public hearing. And I believe we do have some registered speakers.
Yes, sir, we have the applicant, Michelle Giltner.
Let me back up because I believe Mr. Khan is registered for this as well, and I have not been paying attention to see if a Mr. Khan came in. Apparently, Mr. Khan, if you're here, no? Okay, still not here. Okay. Ms. Giltner.
Hi, good evening. My name is Michelle Giltner, and my husband and I, Kevin, we live at 1012 Westwood. First of all, I want to thank the city staff who have done an absolutely incredible job with researching, and you can see by the presentation that they've delivered, their professionalism, their commitment to helping us through this process has been unbelievable. So we're very grateful. I also want to say I'm very grateful to you all for, I did not expect all these great questions and discussion, and it means a lot. I'm going to go a little bit different than I'm trying to be brief because this is a long meeting, but I'm going to go a little different than what I had planned, and that's because Bhavesh did such a great job telling the history of the home. So I just really want to tell you my experience, my husband's experience when we found it. So we purchased the home in 2014. About 12 years ago, we decided we wanted to move to Plano. Our daughter was 4 years old, and we wanted great schools. So we started with our search and, of course, ended up with Plano. From there, we looked at a million different homes. Nothing was jiving. My husband loves open space and room to spread out. But we kept looking. We had zeroed in on this neighborhood because I found a pool in the shape of Texas and a wonderful farm museum on two ends of the same neighborhood, and I was amazed. Then we saw this coming soon sign, and Ann Harrington, who was the wife of the former mayor, showed us the house. She welcomed us in with our 4-year-old daughter. We got into the front door. I saw that porch with the sliding glass, and I grabbed Kevin and I said, "This is it." And he said, "We haven't seen the house yet." And I didn't need to. It was just that feeling that I had. That house has really inspired my love of preservation. So since I've lived in that house, I was fortunate enough to serve on the board at the Texas Pool. I spent 6 months volunteering with the Heritage Preservation Office for the city of Plano, and I worked for 4 years at the Heritage Farmstead Museum. It's all part of a big picture, and I just am really fortunate to be able to be a steward of this home. I'm also very fortunate to have a great neighbor, two great neighbors actually, the Flanagans and Marvin Jolly. Marvin is pursuing an application for Mayor Harrington's house as well. And I just think that these two homes are a wonderful representation of this particular neighborhood and this particular time of history. So thank you very much for being so supportive, and we hope that you will approve our designation. Thank you.
Hang on just a minute. Let's see, since you're the applicant, let's see if any of the commissions have questions for the applicant.
Absolutely.
Anybody? Okay, great. Well, as a historic homeowner, you heard my speech.
I support you. Thank you so much.
All right, next speaker.
Next, we have Peter Flanagan.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Peter Flanagan. I actually live at 1008 Westwood Drive, so just below the yellow dot there. I've been in that house for 30 years, so I was able to, luckily, meet the Harringtons, both homes there. So I know Michelle touched on it. You talk about the steward or gutting the place. I see her as a very historic steward. I know the Texas Pool really got their designation because of her work, so it's really an important part of her life. So I see her as protecting the property as it is. So I don't have any concerns with that. Me and my wife fully support the designation for this property and the other Harrington properties. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any other speakers?
No, sir.
All right, close the public hearing. Commissioner Ollie.
I feel like we should say thank you. It's not, I don't think the tax exemption actually covers how much you need to spend to maintain that property. So,
Not even
thank you
close.
For partnering with the city. And, you know, Plano does a good job of living memories. so that our children and our children's children understand the journey the city has taken to be where it is. So we appreciate that. And that being said, are we doing two? We're doing one just for.
This is just for item number 3.
I move that we approve item number 3 as recommended by staff.
Commissioner Alali.
I'll second.
All right, we have 2 more lights on. Commissioner Bender, go ahead, lights on. Commissioner Brunoff, did you have comments?
Hello? Yeah.
There you are.
Thank you for everybody who's speaking. I appreciated the lady's comments just now. I remember when we considered the Texas pool case a couple of years ago, and it struck me at the time of the historical significance of this development as a whole as the first residential development in Plano west of Central Expressway. And the Texas pool was tied with that because it was a landmark, a promotional landmark, admittedly to attract people into the neighborhood. This home is part of that history, and I think it's also part of an appropriate way of honoring a very significant person in the history of the development of the city. And for that reason, I will vote in favor of the motion. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Before we vote, I do want to add my thank y'all for preserving another historic resource. I understand your passion. I respect it completely, and I will testify that the tax abatement does not anywhere go close to what it costs to taking care of a historic home. So thank you for your commitment, both philosophically and financially, to preserving the resources of Plano. So with that said, I'll call the vote. Please vote. Motion passes 8-0. All right, item number 4.
Agenda item number 4, request for individual heritage resource designation on 0.1 acre of land out of the Thomas M. Archer Survey, abstract number 14, located on the east side of Westwood Drive, 355 feet north of Westbrook Drive in the city of Plano, Collin County, Texas. Presently zoned single-family residence 7. The petitioner is Marvin Jolly. This item is for legislative consideration.
This item is a request to designate the adjacent property at 1016 Westwood Drive as an individual heritage landmark with modified development standards. As with the previous item, I will briefly introduce the request, then turn the presentation over to Mr. Mittal, discuss the heritage aspects. I will then return to present the remaining information and staff recommendation. The subject property is located on the east side of Westwood Drive, directly across from Westwood Park. It is within the neighborhood zone single-family residence 7. The property is developed with a single-family home constructed in 1967 as part of the Dallas North Estate residential subdivision. To provide more information about the history of the site, I will now turn the presentation over to Mr. Mittal.
Thank you, Anna. So I guess by now, I think probably all the commission members are very familiar with the heritage landmark, so I don't need to repeat what it is and what are the benefits, tax exemptions. Wow, that was a good conversation. All right, so let's dive into this property, which is right next to 1012, the property that we reviewed earlier, 1016 Westwood Drive. Mayor Rob L. Harrington Jr. home. The mayor lived in this house for pretty much entire life since he was mayor in Plano till his death, I believe. And he was the youngest mayor in Texas. Became mayor at the age of 31. I believe he served a 2-year term. And I think he came back to serve as a council member, if I'm not wrong, sometime in 1971. So he was always affiliated with City of Plano, and his involvement in public service is just unbelievable. He was a mayor who championed the parks and open space preservation, established or led the Plano's first comprehensive plan, and established the Parks Department in Plano. So significant achievement as a mayor. We all know, everybody lives in Plano, how wonderful our parks are, and comprehensive plan, which was recently updated a few years back. So, but then this first comprehensive plan was there for such a long period of time, and I think we are so fortunate to have that comprehensive plan because that dictated all the plan developments that happened in Plano after that. So clearly he was one of the Plano's most influential civic leaders during the time where Plano was transitioning from a small agricultural town to a planned suburb. His residence also remained as a center of Harrington family's civic and community involvement with all the other organizations and other leadership roles. He was affiliated with other organizations. And then, as mentioned earlier, he created this Harrington family compound to build the house for his mom and brother next doors. His preservation legacy continued. He donated one of his father, this truck to Heritage Farmstead Museum, which I believe is still there, where people can go and enjoy this 1931 Ford model AA heavy-duty farm truck from his father. I think his father received this as a bonus payment for his service in World War I. So again, it's a great artifact to go and visit at the Heritage Farmstead Museum. So again, clearly, Mayor Harrington's involvement and work led to Plano's economic development, during his years in service or while he served as a mayor or a city council member. So it reflects his enduring legacy of the Harrington family. And several of the structures in Plano are not necessarily named after Mayor Rob Harrington Jr., but the entire family of Harringtons. We have the Harrington Library, the Fred Harrington Elementary School, Harrington Park, Harrington Methodist Chapel. So his aunts, uncles, cousins, his cousin also served as a mayor. So you see the family contribution to the development of Plano. There's also an architectural significance for this house. It's another intact example of mid-century ranch style in the same Dallas North Estates neighborhood. And what's unique about this house was Mayor Rob Harrington's wife. She was highly inspired by the Southern Living magazine back in the time, and which had these kind of a house for young modern like floor plans. So from what we learned that the current property owner came to know and he informed us was Mayor Rob Harrington's daughter informed that his mom or her mom was highly, highly inspired by these Southern magazine, and specifically this House for Young Modern open floor plan, as you see the image on the right side from this magazine. And the Harrington home plan is based out of this magazine. So although it's not identical, but you could see the circulation pattern. The common areas are very open. If you compare the two floor plans side by side, the dining, living room areas are very open. All the private rooms are on the sides of the or edges of the floor plan, and it's very, very open, very kind of a more like inside-out plan. And again, this is one of the nationally published Southern Living House magazine. So back in the day, during this time when a lot of houses were very simple, post-World War, modern houses, very small. So to design something based out of a magazine was very unique, especially in Plano. And in neighborhoods like Dallas North Estates, where a lot of houses were just, you take one floor plan and repeat in several blocks. So to design something, again, very unique and custom built out of a magazine is also very unique for that neighborhood, and in this instance. Again, we were very fortunate to have all the architectural drawings for this house. So if you compare the architectural drawings with what's built, there were very minimal changes. I think one of the most prominent changes was these windows. If you look at the original drawings, the windows would go up in the gable and not stop where the gable starts, the shingles that you see in the image on the top. So that was one change, but that was done during construction itself, so it was not a later change from what I understand after speaking to the current owner. So again, it's an excellent example of mid-century ranch style. As you can see, typical features of ranch style is very horizontal profile, asymmetrical form, and use of the materials, brick and shake single roof. Again, it was designed knowing Mayor Rob Harrington how much is loved, the park environment. Again, it's very difficult to speak, but when we visited this house, as soon as you walk in the backyard, the first thing that comes out of your mouth is just wow. Just the amazing view of the Pittman Creek, the wooded areas around it. So again, just the way it integrates indoor and outdoor living it's very unique to this house as well. The house retains a high degree of architectural integrity, original design, original materials, although some of the windows have been changed, but most of the house is intact and not significantly altered. As you can see the door, it's very difficult to see on the top image. It's a very, very wide, very unusual double door. So whenever the property owner gets to replace it, it's not going to be an easy expense. So hopefully the tax exemption would help him if it gets designated. So again, these are some of the very unique things of this house that are still there and still visible from the original inception of the design. I don't want to talk of the historic context again because it's the same Dallas North Estates neighborhood that we talked for the previous landmark designation. So in this instance, one of the criteria is different from the previous application. In this instance, it's it's a distinctive characteristic of type, period, and method of construction, versus in the previous one, it was the master designer, which was Jim Scroggins. This is not a Jim Scroggins design, but because of it's inspired by this Southern Living International magazine, and from that floor plan, it makes it a very unique type of mid-century ranch style design for that particular period. So that's why staff believes that it meets the criteria number 5 in addition to criteria number 2 and 7, like the previous application. So again, here's the justification for this criteria. Again, number 2 is same as the previous application. Number 5, it's an excellent, well-preserved example of customized mid-century ranch architecture, which emphasizes the distinctive characteristics of style and adapted to the natural creekside setting. And lastly, again, it's identified with Mayor Rob L. Harrington Jr., one of the youngest mayors of Texas, whose leadership in public service helped shape Plano's growth, community planning, and park system during a transformative period in city's history. So summarize again, another exceptional example of historical and architectural jewel in Plano, meets 3 criteria of the Heritage Preservation Ordinance. Again, one of the significant examples of customized mid-century ranch style residential architecture that still maintains its architectural integrity and signifies or recognizes the significance of Mayor Rob L. Harrington Jr.'s contribution to Plano and the development of North Dallas Estates. And last but not least, it meets the 2024 Heritage Preservation Plan by recognizing an important resource of Plano's post-war suburban development. With that, I'll hand it over back to Anna.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal. The property's SF7 zoning requires a 30-foot setback and a 10-foot side yard setback. However, the residence is located approximately 27 feet from the front property line and 8 feet from the southern side property line. In 1967, a 5-foot strip of land was added to the property, but the recorded plat was not revised. The residence complied with the side yard setback based on the original platted line, resulting in the current setback discrepancy. The request includes modified setbacks of 27 feet in the front yard and 8 feet in the side yard. Staff supports the modification to recognize this long-standing condition and bring the property into compliance with its zoning. The subject property is located within the neighborhood's category of future land use map, which encourages maintaining established neighborhood character. The request is consistent with the goal of this category. In addition to meeting the future land use maps, it also meets their heritage preservation policy. We received no response from the property owner. We received 2 responses within 200 feet of the property, 1 in support, 1 neutral, and no oppose. We have a total of 3 citywide responses, 1 in support, 1 neutral, 1 in opposition. The request is to designate 1016 Westwood Drive as a heritage landmark, as the property meets 3 of 8 designation criteria with modified front and side yard setback of 27 feet and 8 feet respectively. The Heritage Commission recommended approval by a vote of 6-0, and staff also recommends approval of the request as submitted. Mr. Mittal and I are available to answer any questions you may have.
Commission, questions of staff. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Chairman. Just had some comments. You had made reference previously to some of the Harrington sites in Plano, and there's one in West Plano that you didn't mention, and that's the Harrington Home Place. That's over at Preston in Ohio, Parker in that area. And I used to live across the street from Gladys Harrington. So, you know, the family history is very strong in various parts of Plano. And, you know, in preparing for this, you know, I drove by the 2 properties. And one of the things that's not apparent from the pictures is really Pittman Creek. And these houses really back up to Pittman Creek. And when you're on the other side of the creek, there are no houses. So it's really a very unique setting in terms of the environment. And so when you talk about the beauty looking back on it, it's a very unique setting and very typical of what early Plano would have been. So nice job, nice presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ali.
Clarifying question on the setbacks. So essentially, somewhere along the line, somebody added 5 feet of land, which is nice, to the property, which made it no longer in conformance with our 30 feet setback. But if that land wasn't added, they would be in compliance, essentially.
So what happened with this property, it was, there is an address 1020 and 1012. There was a land in between them, in between 1020 Westwood Drive and 1012 Westwood Drive, and that land was divided into 2. So half of the property went to 1020 and half of the property went to 1012. And then 1012 gave like 5 foot of a strip of land to 1016 Westwood Drive.
That doesn't answer the front yard question. We can't explain why we don't have the records for that.
So in case anybody did that, add some more land to my house, please. I'll take it. 2 other questions. So in Dallas North Estates, we have Farmstead, Texas, Pool, now at least 10, 12, I think what we just voted on. Given that cluster of, of landmark sites, why are we not looking at Dallas North Estates as a heritage district, for lack of a better word?
It's a very valid point. That's a question that we're going to ask the property owners, I think, moving forward. I think there's already some conversation happening in the neighborhood that we have heard from the current property owners that other property owners are interested to see if there is an ability to designate that area as a historic district, you know? So there's definitely potential, but again, we have to look at the ordinance, so we have to get property owners buy-in and things like that, and meet the requirements. So if the neighborhood applies, sure, we can pursue their application to look into designating the neighborhood as a historic district.
Okay. So there has to be, what, a majority of neighborhood owners? in
That is
order to
correct.
proceed?
So district is, I think, 2 or more, but I think in this instance, I don't think so. These property owners want to just make a district for their 2 properties. So, because the beauty of the district is not every single home might be contributing, you know. There could be homes that are built in the last, 30, 40 years as well. There have been common in Plano, people have demolished and, built new homes. But when you form a district, these houses also become part of the designation. It's like in Haggard Park. There are houses that are built, 20, 25 years back. But if it's a designated district, then these houses also get benefited, through the tax exemption program, other things like that. So again, is the neighborhood who has to get together and decide, how many property owners are interested. It has to be a contiguous, row of properties.
Gotcha.
You
It
can't
be
have
broken up.
That's right. You can't
Gotcha.
have it broken. So it could be on the same block, or it could be on either side of the street. But that's a good conversation. I think we're going to have some staff plans to meet with the neighborhood association or the community to educate them if they want to pursue this designation benefits. We also have a neighborhood conservation tool that is kind of a light historic district tool. So if they are not ready to become a full-fledged historic district, maybe they could start becoming a neighborhood conservation district and see how that goes, and then maybe slowly and gradually become a historic district in the future.
Okay. And I'm not advocating, I'm just curious as to, you can almost see the BB balls rolling in a certain direction. Last question, and Mayor Harrington is a key criteria, and his just on the parks, that alone is enough to earn him a Hall of Fame within Plano. But I guess my larger question is, what you just mentioned, we have a lot of designated ways to celebrate the Harrington family. What is the guardrail, essentially, from ensuring that you don't just need a Harrington name? If I was a Harrington living in my house was built 39 years ago. I can't argue that it's a historical, because I didn't contribute to this. My predecessor, or my forefathers, or my forebears contributed. Is there some additional criteria or nuance that we consider when we try and attach the historical contribution of a figure to a designation?
That's a very good point. So I think we have to look at it. I think how much that particular individual, whether it's a mayor or other city council member or something, how their contributions, what they have done during their term. So it's not only that aspect of it. I think the house should also maintain its architectural integrity. What if the house has been altered that you cannot identify what the house looked like when it was originally built? So there are several factors that you have to evaluate when you look at these buildings. So let's say, for example, another Harrington family member comes and applies for a designation. So they would be looked at totally as on an individual basis. Yes, if they are related to Mayor Rob Harrington, yes, that helps. But again, they would be looked at completely on an individual basis, not just because they carry the name Harrington. Their association of what they have done, in terms of culturally or, other criterias that we have? Does the, structure maintain its integrity? Do you still have the original materials in the building? So there are several different things that you look at on the application. Just the name does not automatically make it eligible for designation.
Thank you. That was what I was trying to pressure test. Thanks.
Commissioner Bronski.
Okay, so I'm good with, I'm struggling with designation number 5, but it seems almost like a stretch for designation number 2. So during your presentation, I counted 6 times that you highlighted and suggested the importance of the interior of the building. There, that page. And as we found out just recently, you aren't going to look at that. That's not even going to be something that you're going to pay attention to as it relates to maintaining this designation. And it just sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you, that at least 6 times you felt like the interior and the customization of the interior based on the magazine was a big part of this house. Is that correct?
So yes and no. I think what's important over here is the floor plan. It's not the interior per se. It's a floor plan. The way the floor plan is laid out is inspired by this floor plan from this nationally recognized magazine. So if you compare the interior, nothing matches from that floor plan on the inside. But it's the overall floor plan, the openness of the space, the kind of indoor-outdoor connection. If you look at both the floor plans, you kind of almost entering both the houses from the middle and then kind of going straight out. So like almost like a cross ventilation, if you could call. So it's a good movement of light and air, naturally lit. So it's a inspired floor plan, not really per se like interiors of this building. That makes sense?
Sure. But you keep talking about the interior, the floor plan. You aren't going to look at the floor plan, though, once.
But I think in this instance, it's inspired by a floor plan from a nationally printed magazine. So that's important because back in the day, there were not many people who were, customizing their ranch-style homes off of some of the, standard, floor plans that were printed in the national recognized magazine. So again, it's just a inspiration that Mayor Rob Harrington's wife kind of pick from here and kind of work with an architect to design the house. So that's, again,
So when I drove by there, I also noticed is the exterior of the facade, is that very similar to 1020 as well?
No. You mean the 1012 or 1020?
The one that's next door to it that looked, I mean, to me, when I looked on the map and was driving by, it looked very similar.
Are you talking about the previous designated building or the one that's? Okay.
No, the one on the other side of it.
I don't know for sure. Maybe the applicant can address that question.
The only difference I noticed was the windows. But again, I'm not struggling with Mr. Harrington's recognition. I'm just struggling with the idea that you continue to focus on the interior and the layout of the floor plan, which is all inside. And this designation is not going to protect that in any shape, manner, or form. And so I've got a difficulty in saying that, does just because he lives there, does that make it significant events occurred because of this facility? I don't know that. But struggling with Part 5 is more my problem because all I hear is about the interior. All I hear is about the floor plan, the layout. None of that is in any way protected or guarded from being completely altered, as Mr. Ali previously mentioned.
I think that's a fair point, but I think floor plan does not necessarily mean interior. Floor plan also includes exterior walls. If you remove the exterior walls, there is no floor plan. So, the exterior of the building will be, under Heritage Commission's purview if it gets designated. So anytime they are trying to alter any exterior, which is associated with the floor plan, if you take the exterior walls out, there is no floor plan.
But they don't have to come back to completely demolish the interior and destroy the entire floor plan as it's laid out inside the building.
Well, again, as I said earlier,
I don't mean
interiors
to
are-
argue with you, I'm just saying
Got
that,
it.
I've got a real serious concern as you focus on the interior, the layout, the floor plan, all of those things that are in no way going to be protected, and then the similarities to the house that I look at 1020. I'm just struggling with it, that's all. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner O'Lally.
I actually have a question in line with Commissioner Bronski. So so you showed us the elevations, the original elevations, and the existing elevations, the current elevations, they don't correspond exactly. And you mentioned in your presentation, and I read in the report, that the windows and the door, the main door, were altered, right? Throughout the years, right?
The main door remains the original. The main door is original to the house since it was
Okay.
built. The windows, I would not say altered, but during construction, when the house was built, it was not built as per the original drawings. These windows that you see, the 4 windows on the front elevation,
They're the
these windows
original?
were taller
Yeah,
as per
but
the
you know-
drawings,
yeah,
as per
but
the
you know-
drawings. But when they built the house, the windows were built to this size only. So they were not altered once it was constructed.
Oh, yeah, so these are the original.
That is correct.
As-built,
Right.
okay, yeah.
But the
because
windows
of
have
the-
been changed. The window size and location
Haven't
remains the
changed,
same.
but the windows themselves, they changed
Windows
them?
themselves have been
That's what I'm
changed.
saying. So
Sorry.
on the elevation, if I'm looking at the elevation, the bottom pane of the glass, it has 2 panes, and in the one on the top. So, but on this one, the altered windows is just like 2 panes, one top, one bottom. Are we gonna ask the applicant or the homeowner to, go back to the original? Because like I said, I worked on, some conservation district and historical, and the city would require us to, they have a design guidelines, a design, details that we have. Even if we want to rebuild something on the exterior, we have to comply with those design standards, details, and everything. So
So
are
that
we
is-
gonna ask the applicant to go back and do the, at least, add a mullion at the bottom?
So typically, we don't go back and ask them to redo based on what's existing right now. So if it gets designated, it would basically, this would become the template of as when it gets designated. So moving forward, if they are doing any changes, then at that
They
time.
have to go back to this one?
We could work with the property owner to see if they could go back and try to incorporate the original, design or the mullion pattern that they used to have it. But as
Yeah,
of
that
now,
would
we can't go back and tell the property owners that
To change
once it's
something,
designated, you need to go back and have the same divided light pattern, so.
Yeah, that would be good if, if they do any, maintenance or, renovation to the exterior, they might, we ask them to go back to the original
Yes, we
design. That
definitely
would
work
be-
with, definitely
yes,
work with
that-
that.
that would be,
And
yeah.
property owners always look at historic photographs and historic documentation.
Yes,
In this instance, because again, these property, this one and the previous one that the commission looked at it, property owners have just recently bought these properties in the last 15, 20 years. So the good part is they bought these houses from the original Harrington family members. So there have not been too many owners in between them. When you have multiple property owners, you see a lot of property or changes that happens to these structures. But thankfully, that has not happened a lot in these instances, and they have a good documentation. But unfortunately, most of the changes or the material changes were done by the previous property owner. So hopefully, once it gets designated, the current owners would be motivated to go back and look at those drawings and maybe incorporate some of those missing features.
And we appreciate your work and their work, of course, to add to the Plano heritage. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brunoff.
Thank you, Chairman. Excellent presentation again. Thank you very much for your work on this, and congratulations to the property owners. I just want to say I'm not necessarily looking for a Frank Lloyd Wright original. To me, the important thing about this house is its historic significance, not only as part of the Dallas North development, which was a historically significant development in the history of Plano, and also because of its association with an individual who was historically important in the development of the city of Plano. Just analogizing a bit from my own past, as you all may know, I used to live in Irving, and there is a historically significant home in Irving. It's the Otis Brown House. Otis Brown was one of the founders of the city of Irving. He was, that happened in the very, very early part of the 20th century. And he settled in Irving and built the house, which has been restored and has been lived in. As a matter of fact, it was lived in by the mayor of Irving when I was living there. The analogy for me is quite clear.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions of staff? Nobody? Okay, we do have a public hearing. Let me open the public hearing. I think we do have the applicant here.
Yes, we have Marvin Jolly, then followed by Peter Flanagan.
Mr. Jolly, I think you know the routine.
Chair Ratliff, Commissioners, thank you for your time and excellent discussion on all of these aspects because it is very important to maintain the standard of the process and the integrity of the landmark designation process. My name is Marvin Jolly. I'm fortunate, honored, and humbled to be the homeowner at 1016 Westwood Drive. I, too, would like to express my appreciation to city staff for the information and guidance that they've provided through this process. I do not have Progressive insurance. However, I have become my parents in this process of doing research historically. And it's been very fun. A lot of late nights, early mornings, and a lot of digging. And we've shared information back and forth about, look what I found, and did you see this? And it's been really, really fun to do that work. There are 11 converging historical elements that relate to the property at 1016 Westwood Drive. A Texas oil dynasty, a founding frontier family of Plano, the first planned community in North Texas, the youngest mayor in Texas, 2 Plano mayors who were cousins, both associated with the property, Plano's first comprehensive plan, the founding of the Plano Parks Department, as we've discussed, the initial volume of a new magazine at the time called Southern Living, an iconic bridge in Dallas, Texas, which we'll talk about, a Super Bowl professional football team owner, and the inventor of the Super Bowl is associated with this house, and a 25-year-old fledgling Plano attorney who went on to be a giant in Texas real estate law. So, in the spirit of my parents, let me tell you a story. The year was 1966. The population of Plano, as Bhavesh mentioned, is probably 12 to 15,000 people at the time, all of whom resided east of Central Expressway. Herbert Hunt, son of Life magazine's richest man alive, H.L. Hunt, had developed the first planned community in North Texas, right here in Plano. Herbert did it in partnership with his elder sister, Caroline Rose Hunt, and H.L. Hunt constructed his children's trust in such a way that they had to cooperate with each other. So Herbert Hunt's trust was actually controlled by a trustee who was his brother. Caroline's trust was controlled by a trustee who was her sister. And so the kids all had to work together and be friendly in order to get things done with their own trust. So very interesting process. Over a 6-year period, Hunt and his production builders had sold 580 homes ranging in size from 1,000 square feet to 1,500 square feet in the neighborhood anchored by the Texas Pool. Across the town on the east side, young 33-year-old mayor Robert Harrington and his wife Ann and their 4 kids had outgrown their 1,300 square foot house across the street from Plano High School. Mayor Harrington and the council were deep into the implementation of Plano's first comprehensive plan, and sights were set strongly on the future. In September of '66, we've talked about Ann Harrington finding the floor plan in the Southern Living magazine. The magnetism of West Plano at the time, West Plano's Dallas North Estates, was drawing Rob and Ann across Central Expressway. The green spaces along Pittman Creek must have captivated the former farm boy and future Parks Department founder. In 1848, Rob's great-grandfather had settled on land west of Custer Road, located both north and south of Spring Creek. Jack Carter Pool, Jack Carter Dog Park, Plano Veterans Memorial Park are all on the former Harrington farm there at Spring Creek and Custer. When Rob Harrington Jr. was purchasing his lot, it was back in the day of deals done with handshakes and plans made on napkins, probably over a cup of coffee or something else. And Commissioner Ali, to your point about this lot size situation, Rob Harrington sat down with the Hunt family and said, we've got 5 lots here that are a certain width. What if we made those 5 lots 4 lots? And I'm sure the Hunts said, sure, if the numbers work, sounds great. City probably said fine. Apparently they did say fine. And it was a different day and time when things were done very, very much more simply. The other interesting thing is that rather than using standard financing, Rob Harrington made business arrangements with the Hunt family, and he actually bought the lot contract for deed. And we have signatures from Lamar Hunt and Margaret Hunt Hill on the deed to this property, which is very interesting. Just 5 months earlier, Lamar Hunt's Kansas City Chiefs had played in Super Bowl I. They lost in the Super Bowl. And he actually had invented the concept of the Super Bowl. As the construction on the house was planned, Mayor Harrington called on his distant cousin, master electrician and owner of Harrington Electric, Connor Harrington, and his crew to install the electrical wiring and fixtures in the house. Cousin Connor Harrington, the electrician, would later follow in Rob's footsteps as mayor of Plano. Connor left office after only 58 days when he died on June 1st, 1970. You may be curious about that original 1,300 square foot house that the Harringtons vacated on the east side across from Plano High School. As Rob, Ann, and the children moved west to the new house, the house at 1716 17th Street was sold to famed football coach John Clark. 1967 was a great year for Coach Clark. Not only did he become a homeowner, but he won the first state football title for Plano. So the fascinating story of 1016 Westwood and the contributing historical elements are certainly not evident by the unassuming and basic, even potentially unassuming street elevation. But there's a big story behind it, and we appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you very much.
You tell a very compelling story. Any questions of the applicant? Hang on a second. Hang on, make sure we don't have any questions. Any commissioners? Any questions of the applicant? All right, we expect to see you at the next storytelling deal for the Parks Department. All right, next public hearing.
Peter Flanagan.
Hello again. Yes, again, give our approval of this house as well. We're at 1008 Westwood Drive, and similar comments as before, so thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other registered speakers?
No.
All right, I'll close the public hearing. Commission? Commissioner Ali.
Different criteria. The architecture was a big point on Mr. Scoggins on the previous one. For this one, it's more the historical significance of the individual who built the house, which is why my questions on, how many Harringtons can claim historical significance. We have Harrington Homestead for the original Don Harrington, I believe, was the forebear's name. But just on the comp plan, the man, I knew that would get you. Just on the comp plan and doing the first comprehensive plan for a city which unlocked the growth that Plano, and let me rephrase that, a well-planned growth that Plano has since enjoyed, I believe that alone deserves recognition. Not as strong in terms of the criteria, but on the two criteria, on the contribution of the individual, the representation as a fairly intact representation of what Dallas North Estates was meant to look like or originally looked like, I would move that we approve the desired designation on agenda item number 4.
All right, Commissioner Bender?
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to second the motion and also thank the Heritage Commission for their work, as they are really the professionals in this area in terms of doing the due diligence, which I believe they have done a terrific job at. So, thank you.
All right, Commissioner Brunoff?
Include approval of the requested setbacks.
As recommended by staff. Okay, good question. Commissioner Bronski?
So I don't want to take anything away from the significance of Mr. Harrington, all that he provided to the city, but I'm leaning in a different direction simply because one of the things Mr. Ollie said, that it is a much weaker case, and I very clearly acknowledge that we've met item number 5 without item number 7 without a doubt. I'm willing to concede that we're pretty close on item 2, but I struggle with item number 5, and so I'm going to be voting against this because I just feel like it doesn't match at least 3 of the criteria.
Just to be clear, the minimum criteria is that it meets 2 of the criteria.
Okay, thank you for that. I was going to make that point myself. Okay, all right, so we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Jolly, for your commitment to preserving the historic resources of Plano. We appreciate your commitment. All right, why don't we take a 5-minute break, and we'll come back at 8:26. Please, let's make it short. All right, let's all come back to order here and move on to item number 5. And before we-
Agenda?
Go ahead. I was saying, before we start all that, I want to thank all the staff for hanging out with us, so.
Agenda item number 5, discussion and consideration of the proposed 2026-27 Community Investment Program to ensure projects and programs are aligned with the comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans. The petitioner is the City of Plano. This item is for legislative consideration.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Naisirgi Jaiswal. I'm a planner for the Comprehensive Planning Team. Today, I'm going to present to you the proposed Community Investment Program for fiscal year 2026-2027. So the Community Investment Program, also referred to as CIP, serves as a 5-year guide. And every year, we analyze the alignment of the 1-year CIP with the comprehensive plan, and this presentation is this year's analysis. So the comprehensive plan is meant to guide the future growth and development, and the CIP is an avenue to drive that growth. This presentation is a great opportunity for you as PNC to be informed of the CIP and to assist with the comp plan implementation. Excuse me. All right. So here are the 5 pillars of the comprehensive plan and the associated components, policies, and actions. The CIP program is reviewed under the social environment pillar, more specifically the facilities and infrastructure policy. And the facilities and infrastructure policies and actions was approved in 2023. This policy amendment specifically aims to provide more practical guidance on the strategic prioritization of CIP projects. CIP projects were specifically analyzed against FI4 and its priorities, and 100% of the projects meet each of these priorities, or at least one of these priorities. So diving into the FI4 priorities, first we have priority A, which is to address major infrastructure issues. An example of how CIP addresses priority A is through street reconstruction projects. Priority B addresses preventive maintenance. Example of this could be routine street repair and upgrades. Priority C is to implement aspects of plan maps. For example, we have our Parks Master Plan map, which calls out areas for future parks facilities and which can be implemented through a CIP project. The 7-acre Bruce Glasscock Park is located along Legacy and Communications, which is a good example of this. Priority D addresses goals and actions of department strategic plans. This could be master plans or small area plans. For instance, community parks renovations fulfill strategic goals of the parks master plan. Priority E is to promote economic development objectives like the Chisholm Trail extension, connecting the Collin Creek redevelopment site to the existing trail network. Priority F is to implement technology improvements and innovative solutions, such as technology upgrades of our existing facilities. Priority G is to support reinvestment and redevelopment. So Mendomi Park is an example of this. The city is doing public improvements to the park in coordination with private reinvestment to the adjacent JCPenney campus. The plan alignment analysis is conducted at 3 levels. To begin, we're looking at the project overview, which includes the project type and location. Moving on, we do the funding overview, which categorizes projects by lead department and expenditure category. And finally, the project is reviewed in terms of its comp plan alignment using the priorities of FI4. The bond-funded projects of CIP make up $191 million of the total budget and include projects such as drainage projects and new facilities. CMF, or capital maintenance funded projects, make up $49 million of the total budget and include projects like park restoration or routine facility repair. Looking at our funding sources, the largest share of funding come from general obligation bond, capital maintenance fund, and water and sewer, with smaller amounts of funding coming from other sources. And the majority of our CIP projects are implemented by the Parks and Recreation Department, Engineering and Public Works, and Facilities and Special Projects. However, each year we have a handful of projects that are conducted by other departments. This year we have 8 of them that are managed by departments like Neighborhood Services and Technology Solutions. So all of the projects are evaluated in alignment with the comprehensive plan, like I said, against the FI4 priorities. So this is an example of how we did that. We have the project for Tejas Park renovation, and it meets 3 of the priorities of FI4. So now I'll present the key outcomes of our analysis. The total CIP budget for this fiscal year was $290 million. 70% of the projects are maintenance, repair, and major replacements, and reconstruction and minor replacements. The remaining 30% are new improvements or additions, and policies or studies. This chart depicts our project locations, and a majority of them are within a specific location, as shown here on the map. Engineering and Public Works have most of the projects at 176 projects. 69 projects are with Parks and Recreation Department, 78 are Facilities and Special Projects, and 8 are the other departments. Looking at our project funding source, most of the projects are funded by the General Obligation Bond, Capital Maintenance Fund, and the Water and Sewer Fund. So looking at our project type by lead department, the largest share of projects across all departments are maintenance, repair, and minor replacement projects, followed by reconstruction and major replacements. And then looking at our percentage of funding by project types, in general, maintenance, repair, minor replacements still make up the largest share. However, as seen in the facility and special projects chart, new improvement project types make up the majority of their funding. Now let's dive into each of the department topics. I would like to welcome Katie Dunham, the Park Planning Manager.
Hello, thank you. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the projects that we have coming up this year. We have 70 total projects with a funding total of $43,599,010, which is 15% of the overall CIP for this next year. Our types include park improvements, park capital maintenance projects, park fee projects, and municipal drainage projects. Again, our priority is renovation of our existing infrastructure, redevelopment of our existing park sites, trail replacement, new trail construction, land acquisition, and construction of new parks. So our park improvement projects and park fees are typically our new projects, our trail projects, and some renovation projects. We have over 20 projects in design and construction this coming year, with a total funding of over $24 million. Some of our biggest projects are Bob Woodruff North Core renovation, which is currently under construction right now. We hope that project will be finished right after the beginning of the new actual calendar year. Bruce Glasscock Park, which was mentioned earlier, is in design, and we're working to move that one into bidding and construction very soon. Chisholm Trail Undercrossing is a very important project to our system, where we've raised the trail so that it's a little bit further out of the floodplain, and that one's ongoing as we speak. Los Rios Park Trail is a trail that will connect through Los Rios Park to 2 of our other trails, and we're in design on that project and hope to move into construction this next year. Longhorn Park is also under construction as we speak and will be finishing soon. Oak Point Park Hillside is a really exciting project for us because it'll open up additional access to Oak Point Park. And Tejas Park renovation is also under construction. Park capital maintenance projects, we have over 33 projects. These projects run the gamut of median renovations. As you've probably heard, we started our 15th Street renovation project just recently. We also do a lot of park projects in our athletic fields and facilities, replacement of irrigation systems within our parks, work at the Plano Event Center, Pecan Hollow, and a number of other projects. So our park fees. Park fee projects, typically this funding comes out of certain park fee zones, as you see on your map. And the 5 areas that we've identified here are areas where we know we have funded projects that will be moving forward in the next year. And typically our park fee funds help allocate additional funding to projects to improve additional elements to our parks or to build new parks for people that are moving into our community. Our municipal drainage fund, so we have 10 projects on the docket for the next year. The picture you see here is our Arbor Hills Nature Preserve Erosion Control Project and Pedestrian Bridge. If you haven't been out there, go check it out. That project is just being completed now, but in the next year we have a maintenance period in which that contractor continues to ensure that the improvements are maintained and grow up to the level of standard in which we finally complete it next year. We have a number of other projects, some pond silt removals. Shady Brook Trail has a number of issues that we will be improving along that trail, and the Haggard Pond will be restored. Also, our friends in engineering are helping us with some projects along the Chisholm Trail at San Simeon. Those are all of our proposed projects.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman. It's nice to see you. I'm Angela Flans. I am the Assistant Director of Engineering. I'm here to present on the Engineering Department CIP. We generally divided this into horizontal infrastructure and vertical infrastructure. You'll be hearing from facilities after me. We have about 100 projects with their CIP. The funding types we have is street improvements, transportation, municipal drainage, water and sewer, and our funding totals approximately $83 million. That's about 29% of the CIP. So the funding types under streets and transportation are paving rehab, intersections, bridge improvements, and signal and traffic technology. Drainage is erosion control, drainage improvements, capacity improvements, and flood mitigation. Water is neighborhood water line rehabilitation, maintenance and capacity improvements. And sewer includes aerial crossings at creeks, maintenance and capacity improvements. So this is the division of our CIP projects by fund. I'll let you look at that pretty graphic. It makes up about $83 million. This is just an overview of the street construction projects. I know that you've been enjoying some of the orange cones around the town. So the green projects are the ones that we completed in this past fiscal year, and the red is what we have upcoming. So you can see that some of these projects, there's going to be multiple locations per project. So street CIP, we have a total of $35.3 million funding. The purpose is to improve roadway infrastructure for the traveling public going around and through our city. So this is, replacing aging pavement and other things I just shared already. So we are completing about 10 projects this year, and then we have 42 projects going to be active in design or construction. When we say streets transportation, this is more of our traffic type projects. So we have about $10.8 million. The purpose is to reduce congestion, increase safety, and improve traffic flow across the city. So some technology upgrades that we have going on are citywide, the vehicle detection, traffic cabinet replacement, citywide fiber expansion, and street lighting. So some of the, we have completed 3 projects, and just a reminder, these are citywide projects like the, we have controllers that actually were at every signalized intersection that we have. So in this coming year, we have about 10 active projects in design or construction. Municipal drainage, just like Parks said already, we are doing things in conjunction with each other. We have about $12 million for drainage. Our purpose is to protect stream banks, prevent erosion, and reduce flooding in our city waterways. We do have a stream bank stabilization program that we are going to be presenting to the council next week. So we're going to tell you more about that. We are here to prevent local floods and make sure that we reduce erosion. We have 2 projects that have already been completed that represents multiple locations, and then we have 14 projects in design or construction next year. Water line improvements include about $12 million. What you'll see is that our city water system infrastructure is here to keep your drinking water safe for our residents and our visitors. So replacement of water mains includes 6 to 12-inch cast iron pipes. Some of these pipes are aging. Some of them are almost older than me, close to 50 years or so. There's 1,500 miles of water mains that we are trying to keep up to date. So currently, we have almost 25,000 linear feet in design and 67,000 in construction. So you'll see a whole bunch of work going on right now. So 5 new projects are on the pipeline, literally, about 48,000 linear feet to be done. Last but not least, our favorite is wastewater improvements. That's another $13.3 million, purpose to provide safe collection of wastewater, improve quality infrastructure, and prevent overflows and mitigate environmental impacts to the city. So we are trying to increase capacity of wastewater facilities also to help mitigate what's going on with the city's growth and development. So that we have about 1,000 miles of wastewater pipelines in the system, and currently we have 11,000 linear feet in design and about 8,000 linear feet in construction. We are anticipating 7 new projects, about 25,000 linear feet. Right? And that's all. And facilities was right after me. John Selipek is our new facilities division manager.
Good evening, Council and Chair. It's good to be with you. I am here to present the facilities CIP and CMF project overview. To begin, we have a total of 79 projects, and 10 of those are funded through the bonds. We have 63 CMF projects for facilities, and then we're working on 6 along with parks that are also CMF. These include 8.6% of the CIP budget, totaling $24.9 million. Our purpose is we have dual purpose funding sources here on these, and so I'll separate those out a little bit. But we're here to fund major long-term facilities investments, a lot of new construction, renovations, and critical infrastructure renewals. We have a total of 10 projects that total $11.9 million. And to highlight some of those major projects, we have Oak Point Maintenance Facility, the High Point Fuel Station, Schimmelpfennig Library, and various other projects including generators, roofs, and windows. The CMF portion of the projects total $13 million. There's 69 projects, and we broke them up for you there to take a look at. A lot of them are generators. A lot of it is critical infrastructure such as HVAC, roofs, exterior equipment, and lighting. We have 7 facilities projects totaling $1 million that require departmental support, and 6 of these projects are the park projects, totaling $1.38. that is all I got, and thank you very much. It's good to be with you.
Thank you, John. Good evening, Peter Brasser, Director of Special Projects. As you may remember from last year's presentation, Special Projects now does all the ground-up new facilities for the city, both design and construction. This year we have a total of 5 projects. As you can see, it's a big chunk of money because the largest project is, of course, the police headquarters in 911. That has an all-in budget of 155, and next year we're million, and next year we're projecting about 27 million with a design budget. This is the sort of the project plan we're sort of settling on. You can see there's actually 2 projects here, the public safety headquarters plus the fire station number 14. We're liking to call this both a campus because of all the 3 different parts of it. It is in Ravenglass Park, or on the corner there at Alma and Park. So the design is leaning very heavily towards incorporating it into the landscape more than just being something hard on the corner. We're not really there to show you that yet because it hasn't been designed, but we will be getting there eventually, hopefully this year with all the money we're spending. Fire Station 14, of course, is a new fire station that is going to alleviate the 2 overwork stations on the east side. The Police Training Center is another one. This is obviously an existing facility that's going to be completely renovated or completely rebuilt with an all-in budget of 51 million. And the fleet operations, we are in negotiations to buy some property from DART that the new facility will go on, and that has a budget of 45 million. For these projects, we have architects for the last 3 already sort of lined up, and 2 a construction manager at risk working on those projects as well. And so you'll see those coming to council in the next couple of months. And then Fire Station 8 was supposed to be a renovation, but been determined that it should be a rebuild. So it will be sort of very similar to Fire Station 14, and we'll be implementing all the new worker safety rules for that fire station. And last year I showed you Fire Station 3. We have done our work for that, and now that will, in later years, we'll start a design, but next year we won't be doing anything on it, so that's why it's dropped off the list. Public Works?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Drew Zeski. I'm the Capital Projects Manager for the Public Works Department. So looking at the Public Works side of the house, we have 76 total projects that we have scheduled to spend funding next fiscal year. Our total is a little bit over $90 million, which is a third of the city's CIP budget that's proposed for next fiscal year. You can see our project types there. We draw our funding out of 5 different funds for our work that's for next year. We have 2 streets funds, CIP and CMF. We have water, sewer, and drainage. Sticking on the street side of the house, that's where we spend the vast majority of our funding in CIP and Public Works. We have bond funding and CMF funding. Like I said, I'll go into a little bit more of the nuance there on some coming slides here. Our projects on the bond side are kind of governed by the bond referendum that went out in 2025, and so sticking with the plan that we did when we went out for the bond to the citizens. On the CMF side of the house, we have a $30 million, we call like a hard target to not go over, and so that's what kind of governs our funding and our spend on that side. Obviously, you can see our streets funding as a total of $71.3 million. Drilling down into the actual bond funding itself, there's kind of 2 different buckets. One is our arterial projects, and one is our residential streets and alley repair. For all of our bond funding projects, we make sure that our projects hit a couple different criteria. One of them is that the project has to have a defined limits, and so as you'll see, and as we talked about, some of the CMF projects kind of bounce around a little bit. Our bond-funded projects have plans, plan set with design sheets and dedicated limits. And the other criteria that we make sure we meet is that we don't plan to come back and replace an infrastructure within a certain given amount of time. So for some infrastructure that can be 10 years, for some infrastructure that can be 20 years, depending on the bonds that we put out for those projects. So the 3 main types of projects we have for our bonds. We have our arterial concrete repair projects. Those are the projects like the 2 ongoing projects we have in Custer right now. The project that just got done in Coit. These projects are Contractors there for 12 months, 24 months. They work their way from one end of the project to the other project. They don't bounce around, anything like that. You may be aware of our overlay program. Those are also bond funded. And then on the residential street and alley repair side of things, I have a slide that shows a map, and that kind of goes into a little bit, but we grid out the city, and then we find different neighborhood zones to go to, and we stay there for a couple of years, and we make our way through the neighborhood kind of meticulously. These are the arterial projects that we have planned for fiscal year 26, 27. The blue projects you see here are the overlays. There's 5 segments. We plan on splitting them up into 2 separate projects. Our overlay program takes place in the summertime, and so that's be about 10 to 12 months from now is when we'll be starting the work on those. The red projects you see there are the arterial rehab projects we have identified. These projects, again, will go for anywhere between 12 to 24 months, with the intention that once those projects are complete, they're going to be ready for overlay after that. And these are the residential projects we're planning to put out this upcoming fiscal year. Maybe a little bit hard to see on some of your guys' screens, but J2 and J4 are the residential zones that we're planning on starting new neighborhood rehab projects. These projects will handle the streets, the alleys, the sidewalks, any concrete infrastructure that's deemed to be in bad condition, poor condition, that needs to be removed. And then the blue projects you see there are ongoing projects that started either this fiscal year or the fiscal year previous. So those are all the bond-funded street projects. Now getting into the CMF funding on streets. These are projects, like I said, that bounce around quite a bit. And so we call them requirements contracts, but they're work order based. And so each of the pieces of infrastructure you see there that are listed out will have a contract or multiple contracts where we issue work orders to contractors based off of staff investigations or resident complaints. We will apply a prioritization matrix and send our contractors there. And so our contractors will be bouncing around to all these different projects. But having CMF funding with our bond funding works nicely because we can be a lot more nimble with our CMF funding and how we spend it, making sure that we're addressing infrastructure in real time as it's needed. Like I said, we have water funding. The $12.9 million number you see up there, 11.9 comes from our actual water fund, and $1 million comes from our CMF. Most of the public works money that gets spent on CIP projects in water goes to facilities types projects. If y'all have driven on 75, you've probably seen our beautiful Parker Tower under construction for the last 6 to 7 months. That's a project that falls into this. We have another tank rehab project that's coming up. Another cool project that we're looking at doing is doing chloramine boosting, and so we're doing some water quality boosting at a couple of our water towers to hope that we can increase water quality and decrease flushing that we do in our system. And a couple other major projects we have on water are our pump station rehabilitation projects at Ridgeview and Shiloh. Both of these pump stations have been installed and had work go on over the years. At Shiloh, we haven't had any improvements that have happened to the underground piping, so that piping is about 60 years old now. And at Ridgeview, we have some end-of-life electrical and pumping equipment that we're going to be replacing. But the Ridgeview pump station is kind of the backbone of our pumping infrastructure, and so we'll be spending quite a bit of time and effort with the program to rehabilitate that station. On the wastewater, kind of similar. On the water side, we stick to more of the facilities type stuff. On the wastewater side, we actually do a lot more out in the system. So a lot of what Public Works does is try to reduce the amount of groundwater and surface runoff that gets into our wastewater system. The reason for that is because we end up having to pay North Texas to treat that water, and so we try to reduce that as much as possible so that we're not pumping it to then pay to have to get it treated if we don't have to. So the manhole sealing project you see up there, the sewer CIPP lining project, those are actual construction projects to kind of, for lack of a better term, patch up holes in our wastewater system to stop water coming in. The inflow and infiltration studies and repairs, that's a project to go out and determine if there's leakages happening in our system where there's water coming in. So that's a lot of the focus we have on the wastewater side of things. And then last but not least, our little drainage fund. We have a $150,000 project to do silt removal at Chisholm Trail. So we have just a very small budget piece for the drainage aspect. In future years, that may grow as we start doing some minor stream bank repairs projects, but for this year, we just have the one project. So, and that's it for Public Works.
All right. So, as I mentioned before, we evaluate the CIP project for alignment with the Comprehensive Plan's FI4 policy. And seen in this chart for Parks and Recreation, majority of the projects promote strategic objectives outlined in master plans. That's the yellow bar that you see there. For engineering and public works, the majority of their projects address issues and inadequacies and preventative maintenance to keep our streets up to date and to keep our drainage functioning properly. Facilities and special projects also have a majority of their projects providing preventative maintenance and addressing current issues. And then all 331 projects align with one or more of the FI4 policy priorities. And this item is recommended for approval as submitted. I am available for any questions.
Thank you. As usual, very thorough and frankly overwhelming. I'll lead off here as a construction manager myself. I am always astounded at the amount of work that y'all cover annually. It never ceases to amaze me how many projects that y'all have underway or being completed, and just kudos to the entire staff, leadership down to the rank and file, the people in the trucks in the street. It just really, really compliments. Y'all do an astounding job. I do have to agree with the mayor that the orange traffic cone has become the city flower. But we do apparently have quite the crop out there right now, so it's really refreshing to see us investing in our infrastructure to make sure we continue to stay such an excellent city and continue to maintain our infrastructure. There's not a lot of cities that are as proactive as we are, so thank you all for your leadership and all your efforts in that regard. So with that said, I'll open it up to the commission. Commissioner Brunoff.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, I echo your comments of appreciation to the staff for their hard work in preparing this for us, and then the harder work of carrying out all of these projects, which is quite a bit. Let me suggest that for purposes of focusing our discussion, that we not get mired up in the weeds of picking apart individual projects. We're here to see if the plan as a whole comports with our comprehensive plan. I think it does. I do have a question, though. Are all of these projects able to be completed within a one-year period, or is it anticipated that some of them will carry over beyond 1 year?
So this particular analysis is of the 1-year period of the project, and the projects could vary, but CIP as a whole is done in 5-year blocks. So some projects are new, they're starting this year, some projects are ongoing from before, and they might end in 1 or 2 years. It varies.
Okay, so the number of projects, 331, includes holdovers, projects from previous years' CIPs?
Yes,
that are
correct.
ongoing. Okay. Does the total dollar amount of the projects include the cost of holdover projects that are still ongoing?
For each project, the total budget only considered the budget that was included for this fiscal year.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. That's what I have.
All right. Commissioner Bender.
Thank you, Chairman. I also echo your comments about the leadership and the staff. And, I think the CIP program is really, one of Plano's secret weapons, right? It's really part of the economic engine that really does a lot of our economic development and attracts companies, right? When we have companies looking to come to Plano, they ask about infrastructure. And I think about the amenities and so forth that we offer, and the excellent job that that you've been doing for many, many years is really appreciated. And so, my hat's off to you. It's a challenging job, and there's never enough money. And one of the things that I know that you always manage is the mix of the CIP, right? Because that's got to vary depending on, you know, sometimes there are things that are uh-ohs that come up that you have to deal with. So I really appreciate that. One of the just last things that I would mention is, our question really is, when you have development agreements that come up, how does that dovetail into the CIP program? If you have, you know, a major development that requires some kind of change in infrastructure, how does it play in?
I'm going to phone a friend, Mr. Thornhill.
Phone a friend.
Good evening, Caleb Thornhill, Director of Engineering. So, very good question. And we worked through them individually, one by one. And some of the components that you're maybe thinking about is some of the redevelopment. One of the comments I made, and it was actually to Spectrum News, is the majority of Plano's master plans have been built out. And what we're doing now is we're reassessing based on redevelopment. So we look at them individually, and then we look at them from a larger perspective of the what-ifs. And so it does get built into our CIP once a developer's agreement has been approved, and then we add those to those.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Commissioner Raleigh.
One clarifying question. I can't remember the person who was talking about the wastewater. It was about 1,000 Public Works. The 1,000 miles of new wastewater capacity, is that new, improved, increased, expanded, or did we build? Did I get that number right? I wrote it at 1,000.
The 1,000 miles of pipeline was just to share with you how much pipe we have in the ground for sewer.
So that's our total.
Yes, it's total.
This is not an incremental capacity that we're building, an additional
So-
1,000 miles.
Yeah, so 1,000 is just to give you a snapshot of, like, this is all our system has, and then the linear feet that we shared in the slide is the actual of each of the projects that we're having.
Got it. Okay, all right. Echo everything everyone said, including Commissioner Brunoff. When you spend 96% of our money on maintaining, improving, and building out our environment, that's by the nature of itself is alignment to the comprehensive plan. I may have asked for this the last time the CIP was brought up. This is more for me from a numbers geek perspective. We show our numbers from 25 through 2030. If you can give me the last 5 years historical, I just want to see the trend of how we have been spending our money, especially since 65% of our money comes from bond or debt. It would be nice to see how we have fiduciaries of our economic funds.
To clarify, you're asking to see the CIP budget totals from the past 5 years?
Correct, with the breakdowns. So you have in the penultimate page on our packet from 2025 through 2030. I'm just curious to see what 2020 through 2025 looks like with the breakdowns of what is public safety, engineering, and all that good stuff.
Sure, we can definitely provide you that.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Tong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also echo with all the other commissioners that this is such an impressive presentation, and all the projects, very overwhelming, all the numbers. I actually don't have any questions or comments about this particular, all the contents here. I do have a question regarding a project that I actually brought up like a couple times already, regarding how or when and what we can do about the either power lines or old telephone poles along the streets. I know that last when I asked, I can't remember who answered that, that's kind of out of our realm. Someone else has to do it. But I cannot imagine that anyone else can do it without our city's street improvements or public works getting involved. So what we can do or how we can get this project taken into consideration if we would want to take those lines to underground instead of having those leaning poles literally on our major streets. When we drive down the streets, they look like they're about to fall on the streets.
All right, so there's two issues with the power lines. One is, where do we put those? The right-of-way is very busy right now with telecommunications, gas, and whatnot. So if you do not put them in our right-of-way, you have to go and get easements. The other thing is it's very expensive. I think the latest numbers I have heard, and I think these are undervalued, but is upwards of $1 million a mile to bury electricity. Encore will not do it. It's just, if it's not required by them at the beginning of the development, they will not come back and retroactively do that. So the cost and the location are the two hurdles to do that. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Lingenfelter.
Just a couple questions, I guess, but one with the Public Works, I believe is probably, this is going to be directed for, but how much would you say percentage-wise do we try to perform in-house, some of that?
Good evening. Abby Owens, Director of Public Works. We do majority of our concrete work is actually going to be with contractors. And the reason for that is we are space limited and staff limited when it comes to public works operations. Also, the same staff that will respond for winter storm events or major debris cleanup events are the same team members that we have that are doing streets and sidewalks. And so as of right now, I think the last time we looked at our CAFA report, Public Works in-house crews are only doing about $1 million worth of concrete work a year when we're purchasing concrete. So it's significantly less compared to what our contracted labor is.
And that's just more for just as things come, like maintenance, when things like a water line breaks and water's coming out and you got to tear up the concrete.
Yeah, so we have one group that does repair after water or sewer main repairs that will go back and do concrete, but then requests that come in from residents, essentially the way we've broken it down, and we presented this to council probably a couple months back explaining pavement management. If it's under 300 square yards of repair, in-house crews can usually handle that. So that's typically going to be 16 to 20 squares of sidewalk and then a smaller piece of pavement.
Yeah, yeah. And then have you guys ever looked at alternative type methods, like for a sidewalk, for example, like if you're going, I saw in one of the pictures, cut, and just little strips it looked like, or maybe even grinded down. I'm not sure exactly what some of the coloring that I was seeing there, but have you ever looked at getting those systems where they lift it, where they use the foam or whatever, and we just drill holes and lift it, and versus tearing it out, much more cost effective?
Yeah, so we do undersealing or mud jacking for roads. We actually have a contractor that we work with, and we are looking to do that for sidewalks in the future. We've historically had issues with it because irrigation systems will come up right against the sidewalks, and those holes will sometimes fill with the material. But we're looking at piloting that probably next year.
Okay. And then, and this is a different question, not Public Works now, but I saw the massive number for police side of things. Where does that fall in under our percentages here for the overall? Oops, my computer died. Is that the special projects?
Yes, that is all the special projects. We have two rather large projects for police. Their headquarters, which is roughly 150,000 square feet with a 500-car parking garage.
Like $250 million. So I'm like, wow, that's a big number.
And then the new police training facility. The current headquarters was built in the 50s and modified I don't know how many times. And so it's really more than overcapacity and just not up to today's standards for workforce. And then same with the police academy, built in the 90s, and it's time to expand it as our police force grows as well. So it didn't keep up with the current police force for their training needs. And then the police headquarters itself just is getting replaced.
Okay,
So-
but as far as percentages of the CIP,
I think it's on the slide because the other piece was just a few, I think, was it 14% total? And then it's probably more than 10% of that is police.
okay.
So,
All right. Commissioner Bronski, did you have a comment before I make a motion?
Well, I wanted to say thank you for everyone and the hard work that goes into this. I do have one small question that I like to ask every year, and I'm wondering what kind of savings do we, or are we expecting, or are we already seeing from the overlay from what it would cost or what it would eventually cost for the, for our streets?
So you're asking what is the overall cost comparison-wise, or?
Yeah, what are we expecting to save, and how is that coming along relative to what it would have cost or what it will cost in the future for us?
Sure. So usually the numbers that we kind of present are if, with the current process that we have for doing concrete rehab on panels and then doing the overlay, it's right around $2.4 million a mile about, where if we were to do full road reconstruction, it's over $14 million. And so those are kind of the numbers we base off of. Our first pilot overlay was on the Independence Road section, and that was actually back in 2017, so we haven't even hit the full 10 years yet. We did do joint and crack sealing on that this past summer and are kind of monitoring that to see. Our goal is to, instead of having to go back and do concrete repairs every 8 to 12 years, is what we were seeing before, our goal is to extend the life of those overlays by about 15 years, then go back, mill the overlay, and do any remaining concrete repairs. Honestly, we won't know until we hit that first 15-year mark, which will be about 2033, and then we'll see. But other cities that have done this, it's really like DNT has been doing this for a while, or NTTA has been doing this for a while. They basically just continue to joint and crack seal and see how long they can stretch it. So not sure yet, unfortunately.
So, but from people who have done this ahead of us, it sounds like it's going to be a game changer for the city's long-term.
We think so, because kind of when we've talked about the overlays before, the emulsion layer that goes underneath the overlay itself is what's sealing the concrete and protecting it and keeping any water from getting into those joints and cracks, and that's really what we're trying to fight against. And so as long as we can continue to keep the water from getting in between cracks and causing it to split whenever it freezes and expands, that's what we're aiming for here, so.
Have there been, and sorry to keep going on this, but I'm fascinated by this, and has there been any change in technology in the last 10 years relative to the overlays?
Not that I'm aware of. We have a different kind of mix. It's not traditional asphalt mix that's used. And so nothing that we've seen where we needed to change that our approach has been.
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Commissioner, I'd like to make a motion that we find this, that the CIP is consistent with the comprehensive plan and that it supports the plan's vision and guiding principles. Commissioner Bronski.
Second.
Commissioner Lawley, you got to be quicker on the switch. All right, we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes 8-0. And again, I know we've said it several times, thank y'all very much. Y'all keep the city looking great, and we appreciate all your efforts. So, any other business before the commission this evening? Oh, we have comments of public interest now.
We have no registered speakers for comments of public interest.
Okay. Any other business before the commission this evening? No? Okay. We stand adjourned at 9:16 p.m.